Good afternoon. Today is Monday, February the 12th. This Committee of Finance, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion is called to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, we'll get this.
Here.
I was here. Going to my messages when I was in the office. Here.
Present.
All right, thank you. We always want to hear our guests first, and I think we have a guest with economic development regarding 1270-2022. Believe this is the TIF agreement for the City Club, but this is ordinance number 1270-2022 as amended by Council members McCormick, Harrison, and Griffin by departmental request. An emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Economic Development to enter into a tax increment financing agreement with CCA CBD Cleveland LLC or its designee to assist with the financing of the City Club apartments to be located at 776 Euclid Avenue, to provide for payments to the Cleveland Metropolitan School District, and to declare certain improvements to real property to be a public purpose. Director, and I will read the amendment. It says there is no legal objection to this legislation if amended as follows. 1, strike the second whereas clause in its entirety and insert whereas under ordinance number 1264-2022 passed January 23rd, 2023, the city entered into chain of title of the real property by conveyance deeds from redeveloper to city recorded December 28, 2023, DEQC 202-312-280-162, and from city to redeveloper recorded December 28, 2023, DEQC 2023-1228-0163, the real property, thus establishing 2023 as the base year for determining the increment of appreciated value after completion of the improvement pursuant to the requirements of Section 5709.41 of the revised code prior to the passage of this ordinance. And number 2, in Section 2, line 1, after that, strike 1 and insert the city having entered into title in 2023, that year established as the base year for determining the increment or appreciated value after completion of the improvements. 1. And this is dated 2/9/24 by Steve Martinek, Assistant Director of Law. Director McNair.
Thank you, Council President, members of the committee. I am joined here today by Allison O'Keefe, the owner's representative for the City Club Apartments, as well as Robin Brown from our staff, and Michael Curry, the Assistant Director of the Office of Equal Opportunity. This is a project that I believe many of you know. The original letter of understanding to assist City Club Apartments in coming to pass came in 2020, right? So it predates this administration. It's been going on for a number of years, and for a variety of reasons. We've kind of run into a few delays. But the good news is that the project has continued to move forward, right? And it's been certainly it's been a big benefit to Euclid Avenue and its comeback. And with that, I thought it would be good to have Ms. O'Keefe kind of walk through a little bit of background on the City Club itself before we can continue to talk about the TIF.
Thank you, Director. Thank you all. Good afternoon. So just a little background. Oh, I'm usually pretty loud. Just a little background on the actual project itself. It's obviously at 776 Euclid Avenue. This is a picture of the project currently. You'll see there's still some scaffolding, but substantially the building is up. They had their topping off ceremony last year, so just finishing up some interiors. Here are some other sort of showing the elevation of the building. It's a really beautiful building. They've done a great job. I think it enhances the city well. These are some images showing the outside, the improved streetscape in that area. They anticipate having some outdoor dining, so a lot of sidewalk area. Here are pictures of the lobby, which is, a large atrium. And then the rooftop, this is a really first-class building. They've got a rooftop pool with a hot tub, and, you know, they've got areas to do barbecues up there. They have an area to have a lounge. They have a Zen garden, cabanas, outdoor kitchen. They have event space. It's a really cool rooftop. The building itself has a ton of amenities too, you know, fitness center, indoor theater, conference room, business centers. The lobby will have sort of a breakfast cafe, you know, coffee shop in it that will be accessible to people the residents, and also, you know, business people working downtown. So it's pretty cool. A little background, the developer of City Club Apartments, they are out of Michigan. They do specialize in multifamily housing. They have similar sort of downtown apartment buildings in Cincinnati, Kansas City, Detroit, Minneapolis, Ann Arbor, and they are currently under construction in Chicago and Pittsburgh. The building itself is a 23-story, 304-unit mixed-use apartment building, and there are 4 commercial spaces. 3 of those are, you know, restaurant, sort of retail, and one of them is a Dogtopia, which is a dog daycare and spa. Yeah, downtown needs a dog daycare. And I needed a dog walker when I lived downtown. So the mix of the 304 units is, you know, studios, you know, starting from about 500 square feet, convertible 1, 2, and 3 bedroom apartments, and rents starting around $1,300 a month. The project budget for construction was just under $100 million, and they anticipate 400 residents with an enhanced streetscape and significant amount of retail seating outside. They anticipate generating approximately $682,000 of income tax for the city during construction, $26,000 of income tax for the city for the new permanent jobs, and $119,000 of income tax from the new residents. I think we get into this a little later, but, you know, a little summary of the new income tax and the real estate tax. So the current state of the project, they are leasing. They started building in December of 2021. I think they anticipate being fully complete in August, but starting to have the restaurants and some tenant move in as early as maybe April, with the Dogtopia opening in the spring as well. So the TIF, as Director Michener mentioned, was part of the original financing structure. This was one of those projects that started in 2019. They got the LOI or LOU from the city in 2020, and it got a little delayed because of COVID, but always had included the TIF in the finance stack, which is included here, about $95 million, which includes about $37 million of out-of-town equity into the city. So a summary of the TIF, the estimated non-school proceeds are just over $2.6 million. New annual income tax to the schools after the abatement is about $800,000. They expect to create at least 26 new full-time jobs with an annual payroll of about $1.3 million, $32,500 of annual income tax revenue, and about $975,000 of total income tax revenue over the term of the TIF.
And if I could, Alice, I think the one last thing I would add on to that, if you really think about, with this building coming online, that actually turns into $12,147,765 for the Cleveland Metropolitan School District that they would not have gotten had this project not come to bear. You know, as part of this, I also mentioned that this was a project that began in 2020. Even this legislation was introduced in 2022 prior to the community benefits ordinance being passed. And that being said, over the course of time, the community benefits ordinance was adopted before this legislation was finalized. And so we did all think it was prudent to work through additional community benefits that this project could have. And so with that, I think it would be good if Assistant Director Curry could kind of walk through those negotiated benefits.
Assistant Director Curry.
Good afternoon, Council. As you can see on the board, the City Club and the City of Cleveland generally, this is a negotiation with the Office of Equal Opportunity, the Department of Economic Development, and the Chief have agreed on these general terms. Now, there is no final CBA agreement signed, ready to go yet, but all of these terms are agreed to. We're just finishing up the document, getting it signed. So that includes $125,000 payable over 15 years in general, a $50,000 contribution to downtown improvements, commitment to interview for landscaping and maintenance, and I won't go through every bullet point here, just a few highlights. The 2 technical assistance forums for contractor organizations and for emerging developers. These are outreach events to try to grow the contractor community that we are always trying to encourage use on these projects. This is about planting or improving the soil from which we are pulling those contractors from. ACE mentorship program, 6 full-time high school graduates via the Works First program, and then some affordable housing unit commitments that are also part of this agreement. Any questions on any of that?
Okay, we're going to have a couple of questions on that. Doesn't seem very robust, but you said this was done before the actual CBA was implemented? Because I know that Councilman McCormick and others been spending a little bit of time trying to get this across the finish line, but just want to try to understand.
So in terms of the timing, the short answer is yes. The long answer is obviously we're still discussing this in the middle of, or after the community benefits agreement ordinance has passed. So we believe that it's the intention of this council and the city in general to get these additional community benefits elements out of our development dollars. So these are conditions upon which the CBA has been agreed to.
Okay. All right, I'll go to Councilman Hairston because I know that he's been doing his due diligence on this and had a lot of oversight over this. And then I'll go to the councilman on record, which is Councilman McCormick, and then Mike Polinsky. Councilman Mike Polinsky. Councilman Hairston, this was heard in DPS?
No, it was not heard in DPS. I relieved it at the request of my colleague, and also with the understanding that there was some agreement in place. But I agree with you, Mr. President. This is not robust at all, right? But I'll leave it there. I know that the $125,000 payment over 15 years was a topic of discussion with the OEO director, who I believe was not also in support of this $125,000 over 15 years. I mean, that's to be allowed 15 years to pay that penalty over that time period, I think is, I wouldn't have liked to see that happen. However, I'm supportive of my colleague and supportive of the project, but I just wanted to add to your commentary, Mr. President. I'll leave it there.
Thank you. And I will say that I know that this one was being worked on before the CBA, and as I turn it over to Councilman McCormick, I know that he spent an enormous amount of time really trying to push them for more CBAs. I do like the downtown contribution to help with some of the improvements. So there are some things that are appealing, but Councilman McCormick, did you want to add to that?
No, thank you, Chair. I mean, I support this legislation. Chair, to our representative from OEO, it's my understanding that OEO was supportive of this moving forward. Can we have on record the position of OEO?
OEO is in supportive of these community benefits. We're satisfied with them as they stand.
Okay. That was communicated to me, which is why I requested that this move forward based on that position of OEO. No, but again, this is, I'll be honest, this is a weird one. Great project. Conversation started in 2020, went through the pandemic and all the madness that went through the pandemic. There were some balls dropped in the previous administration and some in this one. On moving this forward. I'll leave it there, but just kind of explain why we're here today. As you might notice, this is a project that's already underway, so I'll leave it there. But again, this is, I think some important points are that we have met to make sure that the developer is moving on some of the community benefits agreements I think this type of project is a great example of the work that Councilman Griffin and Hairston did on CBA, so that we are coming up with these CBAs before a shovel goes in the ground. I mean, that's ideal. But again, I think that, going through the process, a lot happened over the last 4 years with this project. It's a really great project for downtown for the city of Cleveland. It replaces a surface parking lot. So it definitely overall will generate not only new housing, but a lot more economic productivity for the city of Cleveland through jobs and income tax and all that. So of course, a net benefit for the city. It's just been a kind of wild 4 years with this project, including its financing. But I think what is important, Mr. President, is that 4 years ago, the previous administration and council pledged this TIF support to the project. Yes, it was 4 years ago, but that was a commitment that was made as a part of the original financing structure of this project. So kind of funky road to get here. I think everyone involved would agree with that, but I support this legislation. Thank you.
And before I go to next councilman, I do want to just state Councilman McCormick was very diligent in advocating for this, but he was also very diligent in addressing us to hold it until there was a community benefits package put in place. So I want to let you know, and to this body and to the listening public, that he has advocated on both of these, and he's right. One of the reasons we're considering this is because there was a commitment made significantly before we put the CBA in place, but I do want the listening public to very much understand there were some pain points on this one, because we fully expect for people to follow the CBA agreement that we have in place. And some of this is grandfathered in, so we'll be support the councilman's advocacy on this. But I do want to make it clear, Director, we're really going to be staunch on trying to make sure people adhere to this. And with OEO's support in this, I know that the former director had some concerns as well, but I think he's met with them since subsequently. I'm willing to support it because of those factors, okay? But Councilman Mike Polensek and then Councilman Brian Casey.
Mr. Chairman, my honorable colleagues, Councilman McCormick indicated that that there had been a parking lot there, surface parking lot, prior to this development. Do we know what was there before the surface parking lot?
Through the chair to the councilman, this is actually the former site of the Hippodrome Theater. This
Okay.
is, in my opinion, one of the greatest scars in downtown's history, and has long since been kind of advertised as a development site that's sat around for 30 or 40 years.
I was trying to jog my memory. Well, what was there? I knew something was there. I just couldn't picture what it was. Okay. To whoever can answer, who are the developers? Give us a name. Give us something that we can. And I would say this in the future as well. It's one thing to look at a limited liability company, but I'd like to know who they are. So who are they?
Through the chair to Councilman Polensek. So the developer is called City Club Apartments, that's their name.
Right.
The principal is Jonathan Holtzman.
Okay.
He's been developing properties for over 40 years out of Michigan.
Out of Michigan. Okay. Holtzman, did you say?
Yeah, Holtzman.
Okay. So he's the main principal?
Correct.
Any other partners involved in this
He
locally?
doesn't have any other, major partners.
Okay.
He does have investors
Okay.
in this project.
Yeah. And I've been, like some of my colleagues, we've been in the new City Club, and that's very impressive. Very impressive, that space. So I think it's been a great addition. I think a lot of us, were saddened to see it leave its old location because it had been there so long, the City Club. But now that it's up the street, I think, again, it adds to the ambiance of Euclid Avenue. So kudos to whoever pulled that one off. My last question is this, and this is to the director. We're going to be dealing very shortly with this with this downtown TIF, which I want to refer as to the river to the lake. What's the best way to describe that thing?
Through the chairman to Councilman Polensek, shore to core to shore.
Shore to core, shore to core. That's a great name there, okay. Now, here's another project that's being taken out, that's being eliminated, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Then I understand as well that there are a bunch of downtown businesses, buildings, that have requested tax rollback, property tax rollbacks. So including what's going to be the new, which was the Sohio, now then BP, now I don't know what it's called, 200 Public Square, that just sold for a fraction of what it was sold for 5 or 6 years ago. So I'm injecting this because what I hope the administration is talking to the county, Cuyahoga County Board of Revision as it pertains to what's taking place within downtown. Because we're being told there's going to be this pot of money if the council takes this action, yet there's all these buildings and sites that are asking for reduction in their property taxes. And here's another one that's being taken out of the shore to core, whatever it is. Okay, so I'm posing that to you. So I think, because as we get into that discussion, I'm going to be asking those questions about the Board of Revision within the downtown area. Have you looked at that? How many buildings, how many addresses have applied for tax rollbacks, property tax rollbacks? Because I'm hearing, I'm being told by downtown business owners, they're doing it.
Every building downtown.
Yeah, they're doing it. And I'm just trying to hope that you folks, because I don't, if everyone has brought that to your attention, is looking at that, because here's a project now, according to your estimation here, as it pertains to property taxes, that is another one, boom, out of the mix. You have a comment?
So through Council President to Councilman Polensek, so a couple of points on that. The first one is I am not aware of all properties that are in the process of appealing their tax burden, right? Certainly the downtown office market is going through an incredible transition,
Right.
And that is not unique to Cleveland.
No.
I also think that it can be an opportunity. You know, you mentioned the former BP building, 200 Public Square, that I think just sold for, or is at least under a purchase agreement for around $52 a square foot, which is relatively low in the office market. But what that actually does in a city like ours is, I think, for the first time, by getting properties at a reasonable rate, positions new ownership for the ability to make investments in them, which can help drive value.
Okay.
So until we fully understand what each and every property owner is looking to do, it's hard to totally quantify, I think, the question you put it on there. But nonetheless, I mean, yes, over the last several years, we have seen a lot of particularly office owners, you've got a lot of tenants that are looking for reduction in rent,
Right.
right? And again, this is not a unique to Cleveland
understand
problem. As it relates to the TIF district, and I will say two parts around that. One, this project is what we kind of the lingo we use is a 41 TIF per the letter of the law. It's 0.41 in the Ohio Revised Code, a project-based TIF. The TIF district is a 0.40 TIF, right, which encompasses the entirety of the district. And you do have the ability to take properties out of the TIF district and assign them a 41 TIF to specifically put things in there. I will say all of the conversations that you're talking about are taking place at very high levels right now. I think that everyone knows and understands the importance of the conversation that we are having and want to make sure that we get it right. But obviously, when you create a TIF district, and you've heard the numbers that are put out there that could generate somewhere between $3 and $7 billion over the course of its life, that we are talking about the opportunity to invest billions of dollars of public infrastructure in downtown Cleveland and in the neighborhoods as a part of that. But when you do that, that undoubtedly will make property values rise within the district.
Okay. So, and again, I appreciate your comment, your response. The $1,300 a month rent, the whole building will be rental, correct? No condos?
Correct.
Okay. What kind of square footage you get for $1,300 a month?
Through the chair to Councilman Polensek, I believe they start in the 500s.
So
500.
500 square feet?
Yeah.
For 13, and then go up to what? Do we know?
I want to say over 1,000, 1,300, but I have that
Okay.
information, so.
So the rent would go from 1,300 up to what?
The largest unit is just over 1,200 square feet.
Okay.
And I think the base rent is around, on the largest of units, is just under $2.70 a foot. So for 1,200, you know, you're getting about $3,200 a month.
$3,200 a month for rent for probably the units up on the top.
Yeah, a 3-bedroom.
3-bedroom up on the top. And my last question, where do people park that will lease there?
So they do have a surface lot behind the building that has about 140 parking spaces.
Okay.
And then there is a garage that has availability just across the street.
Is that the one that's connected to IdeaStream, that garage? Are we talking to that garage in the rear?
Through Council President to Councilman Polensek, no, this is the garage that is attached to the, I think still named City Club building that the former City Club was in, right, which is now directly in the rear of the new construction project.
Okay, I got you. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilman Brian Casey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, to the Director, speaking, just to piggyback off Councilman Polensek, the 90% of AMI for the CMSD, 30% of the housing, can you tell us about how much those will cost, the affordable? So the 30% of housing units are required to be affordable at 90% of AMI of the CMSD statistical area. What will those prices be? Because I believe you just gave Councilman Polensek what the rents are going to be, correct?
Yeah.
So what will the 30% of the affordable housing units, what will those rents be?
Let me see if I, through the chair to Councilman Casey, let me see if I have that information. It looks like for the studio units, the affordable pricing starts at $1,100.
$1,100. And are those the only ones that are going to be affordable? Are the studios?
I don't know that that decision has been made. I think they are looking at the mix and leasing and see how it's going and where the need is and what those people want. That was, they have a variety of different sizes just for that reason, to see what the market is here. They're obviously out of town. They don't have 6 other apartment buildings to really know.
All
But
right.
they did do pricing for each size and type based on both, so that they would have the flexibility depending on where the need and want was.
And the $1,100, is that for the 500 square foot?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Mr. Chairman, to the Director, we're currently
Like
being...
550, yeah.
Okay, the 550. Mr. Chairman, to the Director, we're currently being asked to support a Health and Human Service levy that's on the ballot this March. So can you tell us how this will affect that? What's being missed out on the Health and Human Services?
So through the Council President to Councilman Casey, I hear you and understand your question, and at the same time, I think the appropriate answer is that it's not costing them anything, because at the time, this project is creating value on top of land. They've acquired it for, I'm sure, and again, this is not a project that I've been involved in, for more than was currently tax valued, which means all taxing entities are receiving more money than they were previously.
Okay.
And then for a period of years, right, we're capturing that value, and eventually, they will get even more.
Okay.
So,
All right. Makes sense. And then my last question, Mr. Chairman, to our developer team or the Director. Who's your electric supplier?
Through the chair to Councilman Casey, it's Cleveland Public Power.
Thank you very much. We're going to answer.
All right, thank you so much. And I don't see any other questions, but a very interested conversation that I know people are going to be talking about the TIF districts, and leave it up to the dean. He actually touched on a few critical points that a lot of us have been studying anyway, which is when you TIF one of these buildings within the TIF district, then that is money that will not go into the pot, because it actually will go towards paying down that individual project.
Correct.
And won't go into that pot for the broader district. So at some point in time, this body is going to have to look at all of those projects or potential projects within that district, because there's a couple of things. One is that if they're going to, we know that one building just went from being sold at $58 million and now $13 million, which means that now that appreciation has a bigger upside, which has a bigger potential. So at some point in time, we are going to need to understand how these individual tips will take away from that pot of money, because that goes into our thought process on how we want that pot of money to be used and looked at. So hopefully you and the rest of the team will spend some time educating us on this complicated tool, because I know that people say, how dare you ask for anything for the neighborhoods, but if we're going to be creative with this, we definitely want to make sure we're creative about understanding how we can leverage it as much as possible.
100%.
Okay? Thank you. Seeing no other questions, ordinance number 1270-2022 stands approved. Please sign on, and once again, please share with the developers. We are going to be very, very critical and crucial about making sure these community benefits are together. But this one kind of hit that limbo, so we'll make some exceptions, but generally, we usually wouldn't push this had it not been for the advocacy for the councilman, okay? Thank you. All right. One more economic development piece, and this is ordinance number 1368-2023 by council members Starr, Hairston, and Griffin by departmental request. An emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Economic Development to enter into an enterprise zone agreement with International Food Solutions and/or its designee to provide for tax abatement for certain real property improvements to the existing Goodwill building located at 2295 East 95th Street as an incentive to locate its food manufacturing and processing facility in Cleveland area enterprise zone, and authorizing the directors of economic development and finance to enter into a job creation income tax credit incentive program agreement to facilitate the purpose and provisions of this ordinance. And I don't see any amendments, so Director, please proceed.
Sir. Thank you, Council President and members of the committee. I am incredibly excited to be sitting here today with you, with members of the team for the International Food Solutions project that's taking place on the corner of East 55th Street and Central Avenue. I am joined by Lincoln Yee, the company owner, Stephanie Mercado, Joe Lopez from Keynote Management, Pareem Kanagaraj. All right. From Higley Company, and let's see, Councilman Starr is here, Mr. Reed from OEO. And I think, again, I have heard you guys, and I've told you before, I understand how important the community benefits ordinance and the community benefit agreements are to this body. I think that what you're seeing before you today is going to be the gold standard for community benefits agreements. A ton of work has gone into this by a wide range of people, and we are really excited to take a project that is going to be creating 220 plus new jobs in the central neighborhood and make it a reality. And with that, I would like to turn it over to Ms. Mercado and Mr. Lee to talk a little bit about the company, and then I'll follow up on some of the incentives for you.
Thank you.
So this project, of course, is we're getting ready to tee up this project for groundbreak hopefully this summer, and we've worked very hard to get it to this point. We've been teaming up with particularly the A.M. Higley Company to work on our agreement with respect to looking at agreements with our minority hiring, with our minority contracting, and we also have a community benefits agreement that we have on deck too to share with you. So our team has worked aggressively to develop that plan. I'm going to maybe have Pareem kind of review again with you the minority agreement that we have on deck, because we also have Next Gen, which is partnering with A.M. Higley.
Thank you. We have approached our participation goals on a two-part front.
Hold the mic in front.
Oh,
Yeah.
excuse me. Sorry about that. On a two-part front, through the contractors, we've focused our bid package development and buyout to maximize our diversity participation. on the goals, on our 3 goals, MBE, FBE, and SBE. In addition to that, we have a teaming agreement in place with Next Generation Construction, with their Vice President and Director of Pre-Construction joining us today, to be on-site managers and true team members managing day-to-day operations throughout the life of construction.
Yeah, so our idea to team up with both AM Higley and NextGen is hopefully providing some confidence as it relates to inspiring mentorship, especially in minority contracting. And I know that's something Councilman Starr in particular has been pushing us to do, and we're in full support of that.
Thank you. All right, so is that everybody? Anybody else? Ms. Brown or Ms. McConnell?
Can I see the
clicker?
Yeah. So, and I would like to add, Council President, again, I think this really is exactly what you guys are looking for. AM Higley is looking at creating a deep relationship with NextGen Construction, committing to over $3 million in additional OEO goals. But you can see in here also a wide variety of very community-specific items that they're bringing on that was done in coordination with the councilman. Again, it's kind of amazing to look at the fact that we're actually subsidizing childcare for employees coming in, which I think is fantastic. But again, this is very community specific and I think great work. To support and make a project like this happen, and Council President, to your point of making sure that we're educating you, I want to make sure that we are educating you on all the tools that we use here. So trying to put this out here, one of the tools that we are using as a part of this is the Job Creation Income Tax Credit Program that you helped approve last year. This kind of shows you exactly how that will play out over the 5-year span. As they add their 220 jobs in here. So over the course of 5 years, that will total approximately $461,000. Now, again, one of the great parts about that program is that is not the city of Cleveland writing a check. These are when they file their tax returns on an annualized basis, that 50% in income tax will come back to them. But I think also important to note that over the course of a 10-year period, and I took 10 years for a specific reason you'll see, that is $2.6 million in income taxes that the city of Cleveland would not be getting if not for taking a collection of vacant buildings on the corner of East 55th Street and Central Avenue and getting this great new company in there. Along that and pairing with it, we are using the Ohio Enterprise Zone Commercial Tax Abatement. I think that this is a really important tool to kind of walk through a little bit. It's one that we have not used a lot as a city. I think when we talk about commercial tax abatement, it can kind of go over some folks' heads sitting here. But, again, this is a vacant building on the corner of East 55th Street and Central Avenue. And so you can see on there the existing tax collections on that. So right now, those properties are paying about $11,677 a year, or over the life of a 10-year span of that 75% abatement, about $116,000, right? So if no one was investing in this property, that's what would come through on the property taxes. After the investments, and these people are looking at making a $32+ million investment in the construction and rehabilitation of these buildings, and also another $40+ million of equipment that goes in there. The new appraised value of this is over $1 million, right? And so estimated on this, it would be about an $8.5 million abatement. But this is $2.8 million in new property taxes that we were not getting before. So when you add these two things together, we're talking about $5.3 million in new income and property taxes that we would not be getting if this company were not going for there, and but for that job creation income tax credit and the use of commercial tax abatement, we would not get there, right? So this is one of those cases where everyone does win. I think it's important for you to know that the city does end up in the green, not in the red, when utilizing these tools. So happy to answer any questions.
That was very good. I'm glad that you did that. Actually, to be honest with you, when you do that, that kind of helps your cause with council because it helps clarify exactly the tangible benefits that everybody's going to get. And to be honest with you, I think that was very eloquent what you just really put aside. And I think you sent that to everybody as well, right?
It was.
It's on the tablets?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so we want to make sure that everybody gets that email because I think that's something that everybody should make sure that they use as a guideline. Plus, the community benefits package looks great, and I know Councilman Starr is going to talk about that in a moment. But Councilman Harrison, this was in DPS. Do you have any comments? And then we'll go to the councilman on record, and then I have Councilman Mike Polensek.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Absolutely. Listen, I'm happy to support this project here. I know Mr. Lee Yee and his partner, I'm sorry about that. Mr. Yee and his partners have done an excellent job in working with Councilman Starr to create what you have before you today. Mr. Shakori Davis was here at our last meeting, who spoke in support of the collaboration in the work between Higley himself and the overall, the project owners, you know, and the work that they've been able to do with each other and the work that they expect to do with each other. You know, this really has yielded some good things for the Ward 5 community, especially the child care, as you mentioned. I mean, that's excellent, right? That individuals who want to go to work and who just needs a little bit of a help, you know, now can get that little bit of help they need if they run over at work and they have to pay additional fees. This money can help them fulfill some of those obligations. And so I'm fully in support of this piece here. Councilman Starr has done a great job along with Mr. Yee and his team to put this benefits package together. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Starr, the councilperson in Ward 5, and I want to commend him. He's done a great job of really nailing down this and got very personally involved in trying to put this community benefits agreement together. Councilman Starr.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you. Hey, listen. I'm about to,
Feliz
I'm about to
cumpleaños
hit the gavel.
a
You
ti.
know you owe me. All you do is come and go to work. Thank you, though. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Everybody.
thank you. And I'm not going to reveal your age. You told me not to today. But happy birthday, Council President. And major shout out to just my colleagues and everyone as a team. Long before I got on council, one of the things that I did championing the community while working to get here was to make sure that we find opportunities for those in our community, those in our city, those individuals to be able to get an opportunity to do something so much greater. Ward 5, if we all know the statistics of the negativity, how we have the most impoverished neighborhood, but that don't mean things need to be that way. And working together to figure out solutions is one of the best approach. So when you talk about International Food Solutions, one thing that stuck out to me was their willingness to sit down and meet. We host Thursday meetings every day with OEO, Zach Reed, Ms. Robin as well as myself, as well as A.M. Higley, and now Next Generation, for us to discuss how to be proactive before the development of the project actually occurred. Before we get into anything, we were able to align community benefits package that makes sense. And from that phrase, I want people to understand, it's an honor and a privilege to get the support of taxpayer dollars. It is an honor and privilege to be able to do development in our city, but we got to make sure it makes sense. And I urge my colleagues to work with these individuals. We don't just say yes to anything. We work together to create that common ground, neutral ground. And it was times that I was pissing Stephanie off through the chair. It was times that I was getting on Joe's nerves. It was time that Lincoln had hit me. I said, "I'm hit you back. Let me make sure this makes sense. Because if it don't make sense to us, how can it make sense to our residents?" And so I want to applaud y'all for working with us. And when you look at this community benefits package, you look at the work and the way that they want to be a champion in our community, from making sure they're making annual donations and contributions to different organizations inside the community, paying for child care services, working with our church to help support their food donation distribution, honoring the legacy of the Majestic Hotel by making sure we have a mural up to understand what they are doing. Also making sure you have that landmark so everyone knows what was here before we were able to do this project. This is something that I am proud to champion. We got 225 new jobs. 225 new jobs, and they're willing to work with Ward 5 to make sure residents have the opportunity to get a decent job at $20 an hour starting off. But also something you got to look at, they did the Area Business Association. We are going to combine these organizations that's in the food industry to create a association to get people the certification that they need so they can work in those jobs, but they're not just glued to one organization or one job. They're able to advance their livelihood and work on their careers. My next step is I'm working with the public housing estates to figure out how we do something with this rent that goes up once you start making dollars. But this does not come out by being something easy. It was 10 o'clock every Thursday meeting for the last 12 to 13 months. And through those meetings and discussions, we got an understanding of what we want to see in our neighborhood, but they got an understanding of how I am a Ward 5 baby. I am someone that lived in public housing. I am someone that's the second oldest of 6 children, single parent household. So I understand the sacrifices that my mom had to make in order for us to get out of the public housing estate, but we also need the opportunity must be there. And as a member of council, it's our job to do this. So I am just honored that we are here today. I know we held off a couple times with this project to make sure the benefits was there, but talking about the community benefits, which is great, is we got Next Generation as a partner. One of the biggest minority construction companies in the state of Ohio that's here in Cleveland, right on Chester. They're going to be able to be on this project and work as a partner to ensure that OEO goals are being met on the beginning of the project, throughout the project. So therefore, we need some adjustments. We can't make this. They're being creative and they're working together. And I'm just proud that we are here. And I'm just so supportive of this initiative, this ordinance 1368. 2023, which is going to be a game changer, but it's also, like we say, this is the gold standard of community benefits. And as council members, let's make sure we work together to make sure these goals are working on all projects, and just say enough is enough. Let's do what we want to do and make it make sense for our residents and our constituents, because we none of us like bad press. We like good press, but we want to make sure it makes sense for our community. So I applaud you all for coming here. Thank y'all for being patient with me at times. Like I said, sometimes I'm a tough cookie, but I'm also a gentle gorilla at times. So I am really, really thankful for A.M. Higley, thankful for Next Generation, thankful for these opportunities. Like I said, 225 jobs is coming to the city of Cleveland. It's coming to a neighborhood of Central, and we taking care of a building that has been neglected for the last 12, 13 years, been a nuisance, all type of stuff going on. Now we're going to be able to get that taken care of, and Lincoln Yee through the chair is already working with trying to acquire some other additional parcels, maybe a church on a corner, to be able to do something else to get that upgraded so we could do some things. So I fully support ordinance 1368-2023 because we're going to make change in Ward 5, and it started by working together and making sure these partnerships work. So thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman. Great job once again for putting this together and working, and heard a lot about Mr. Yee, so glad that we get a chance to see you at the table. Councilman Polensek and Casey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and my honorable colleagues, and everyone sitting here at the table. Councilman Starr, he's just a sugar cookie, so that's, he's not a tough cookie, he's a sugar cookie. So, but for the viewing public watching this, which you failed to say at the table, what is this? You never said what it is. Explain to the people who are watching this from home, because not everybody watches the DPS committee.
Well, this project is a food processing facility.
Right.
We're going to be making Asian, Latin, and Indian fully cooked food products that we provide to schools nationwide in all 50 states and the U.S. military. So primarily, when you hear about school lunch programs, we're a major school lunch supplier nationwide.
Okay.
Yeah, we actually feed over 20 million public school kids, many of those receiving public benefits. In fact, the majority of them do.
So these are frozen?
So picture Cleveland Public Schools, and when they serve tangerine chicken on the public school menu, that's likely our product.
It's your product. I have not tasted that, and I've tasted some of the other public school food, and I will pass on that product.
We are a leader because
I'm glad to hear you're a leader.
We have great food.
You're right, because I didn't hear you say Slovene and Italian, but all over at that point, okay? But what I do want to say this, and it goes, and I want to direct this to the director, and Councilman and Bishop and I were just talking about this. And Saturday, there was an event up on St. Clair in the Slovenian community, a big event, and I always go to those events, but I had my youngest son with me, and I popped him in my truck, and I said, I'm taking you for a ride. And I took him a ride in the neighborhood there, south of St. Clair, up 55th, because my great-grandparents lived on 47th Street, off of Payne Avenue. And both of their houses are still there. I have such great memories of that neighborhood, the whole 55th Street corridor. But, you know, I went near the old Richmond Brothers. I went by Wilson, the school sitting there empty. And we drove up, and we drove around throughout the whole neighborhood. And I said to Andrew in my truck, I said, there is not a neighborhood in the city of Cleveland that doesn't have potential. That does not have potential. I don't care what neighborhood, where it's at, every neighborhood has potential. The question is to the director is, how do we start to materialize that? How do we start to market those neighborhoods and bring in development like this in other places throughout the city? It's critical, because I can remember when Richmond Brothers, I would go down 55th as a kid, and there would be people sitting all over, people who worked there making clothing. And then Wilson and all the other schools and all the other business, and going up down Central, over by Fatima Center. So we drove around, and I was just trying to show him, went over by my great-grandparents' house, and said that, you know, look at this. Some areas are rough, some areas are tough, but if there's a will and you have believers, you can make a difference. The question is, how do we start to market our neighborhoods in a different manner? How do we start, because we're just talking a moment here at the table about rent at $1,300 a month for an apartment building in efficiency downtown. That's a house payment in a suburb, in a neighborhood in Cleveland. So, but how do we start to bring this type of development into more neighborhoods, more sections of the city, so we can really start to see those opportunities? But I commend my colleague, Councilman Starr. I know how much he cares about the neighborhood, his aggressiveness, his concern, his commitment, and just having over this period of time, you guys have been in discussions and working us, having to work with Zach Reed. That in itself was a task, okay? So, so he has my sympathy in that respect. Just joking. Zach cares greatly about our city as well. But so I'll leave it at that point. But you want to roughly say, what are we going to do to better market our neighborhoods, the opportunities that are out there?
So through the council president to Councilman Polensek, my grandfather is a self-described bohunk from the village, right? So the Krutovanie is a great event that scares winter away, which they did a fantastic job of clearly this year. You know, as it relates to our neighborhoods, I also agree with you emphatically. I think from Bel Air Puritas to Collinwood, every single neighborhood in the city of Cleveland has assets. Every single neighborhood has assets that we can build upon. And you don't get to skip steps, right? It takes a lot of hard work. I can tell you one of the things that we are working on in our department is how do we transform our department to be one that traditionally I think has been reactive to solving problems that are brought to us. And I think traditionally have done an exceptional job of that, but one that can be proactive in working in neighborhoods across the city and wards across the city of Cleveland. Because I completely and totally agree with you. Every single neighborhood has assets to build upon. Every single neighborhood has a future, and it is our job to figure out a way to help make that a reality.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Councilman Brian Casey.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, to the director, this isn't new construction, correct? This is rehabbing buildings that are already there?
Through the council president to the councilman, that's correct.
All right.
And new construction.
It's a little both.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's an addition or something going on there?
Roughly 70,000 square feet of new.
Okay, and that's behind the buildings?
Yes.
Okay. And then just one other question, Mr. President, to Mr. Yee. Who did you choose as your electric supplier?
We chose, we had robust discussions with Cleveland Public Power, but I know there were some questions on whether or not we would be able to choose them. At the time of our discussions with them, they did not have adequate transformer capacity. as it relates to being able to service us in the time frame for which our construction was to begin.
And then, Mr. Chairman and Mr. Yee, I won't even tell you what I want to tell you at the table.
Sure.
Because that would be inappropriate.
Sure.
But it was disappointing that you didn't choose them, even though the stories are different both ways. But we'll leave it at that.
Sure.
But Mr. Chairman, to the director, this is a great community benefits package, but somehow we need to work in our own municipally owned electric supplier to some of these community packages.
I can tell you, I was personally involved and tried to have discussions, and it's
Mr. Yee, I don't want to argue with you here at the table. We'll
everybody
just
through the
leave,
chair,
we'll
if we
leave it through the chair to Mr. Yee. I don't want to argue. We'll leave it at that.
Of course.
You
Thank
made
you.
your
Thank you.
decision, but
Appreciate that.
Mr. Yee, if you could, please come strictly through the chair, because I want to eliminate any potential back and forth.
Mr. Chairman, to the director,
See, Councilman Casey.
again, we need to start including that in the community, somehow work Cleveland Public Power in. We've had this discussion off the table, but now that it's on the table,
And through Council President to Councilman Casey, as he mentioned, yes, we have had this conversation. I hear you. I think that having a municipally owned power provider is a great benefit for our city, and we need to find ways to leverage it. As I've mentioned to you, as we go through, and I know that you are all aware, we're currently using a consultant, Baker Tilly, is doing a top-to-bottom review of all of our incentives. We are also creating a scorecard that measures how we go about issuing incentives. Based upon our conversations, we have asked that we add points that people can earn in that from choosing Cleveland Public Power, so that as we weight how much money we invest, civic investments in companies, those that are choosing Cleveland Public Power, that is being taken into consideration.
all right. And then, Mr. Chairman, to the director, one last question. Aside from what's listed here with the TIF and the community benefits, is this entity receiving any other dollars from the city of Cleveland?
Through Council President to the Chair, at this moment, no.
Okay. We can leave it at that. All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Congratulations.
All right,
Great
thank
project.
you. And just as an aside, whenever that Baker Tilly model, because that's part of what we wanted to add as our complete community benefits package, whenever that is ready, could you let the chair of DPS know so that we could have a hearing? And I think it'd be great for finance and DPS to do a joint hearing just on how that looks and how that works, so that people could do that. Secondly, I know I texted you and called you over the weekend, I believe.
Yes.
Who can we connect people with when they want to just do business with the city? Because somebody in the public sees this and they says, Mr. Yee got an incentive, even though Mr. Yee been working on this 4 or 5 years, or maybe
Yes.
even longer. Why can't I get an incentive? Is there any way that we can direct people to a phone number and also the website, so that if anybody has any questions, because I don't want to just give everybody in town Ms. Brown's car, 'cause that's who I call when I'm trying to get answers. So just
Through the Council President, that is also who I call when I
Okay.
need to get answers. So our website is www.makeitincleveland.org. I probably can fairly easily, I would hope, find. Ms. Brown, do you know our department main number?
2406.
664-2406.
Okay, so when people in the public call to ask us, how can we do business with the city? And Mr. Yee just got a nice development package. They need to go to that website, they need to call that number and be able to understand how to do business with the city, because everybody just thinks that we just pass these checks out, and I'm telling them it takes a lot more into it, okay?
Yes, sir.
But good job all around, and Mr. Yee, it's great to finally get a chance to talk with you. I've heard a lot about you, and this isn't on Tom Page's old place, is it?
It is.
Okay.
It is.
So just for the record, if everybody knows what Tom Page used to be, an African-American owner that did food processing, and he also delivered to many schools, many rec centers, many of the other things. So at some point in time, I hope that you'll look at picking up some of the slack that he had with some of our rec centers and some of our other things that we have food insecurity on. So
We are actively engaged in it.
Okay,
And if I made to committee, it is the start of, yesterday was the start of Chinese New Year. And I wish the committee here certainly a prosperous and healthy new year.
Thank you, Mr. Yee. Appreciate it. You too, you and your team. And this is the first time I ever seen Zach Reed at a council table not raising sand. So I just got to acknowledge our former colleague and councilman now with OEO, and he's been working hard behind the scenes. And thank you for helping guide this. Appreciate you, Councilman. Thank you. All right, thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Seeing no other questions, ordinance number 1368-2023 stands approved. Please sign off. Good job, Rich Gang. All right. Next up, we have ordinance number, Netherlands. I'm not taking that call. Okay. All right. All right. Next up is community development ordinance number 28. Is community development here? You're representing them? Okay, if you and Ms. DeGennaro can join us at the table. Next up is ordinance number 28-2024 by council members Polinsik, Hairston, and Griffin by departmental request. An emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Community Development to accept the donation of real property located at 15610 Waterloo Road from Northeast Shores Development Corporation or its designee to be used for public parking. And Director and Ms. DeGennaro.
Good afternoon. So this is a matter that MOCAP's been working on for the Department of Community Development. It's something that's been in the works for a bit of time now at the request of Councilman Polinsik and the neighborhood group. So I'm going to hand it over to Commissioner DeGennaro, who's been the project manager on this one.
Thank you. This legislation would authorize the Director of Community Development to accept a donation of property from the from Northeast Shores Development Corporation, which is in the process of winding down, liquidating its assets currently. The property is an asphalt paved parking lot located at 15610 Waterloo. It's got 9 angled spaces. It's in the Waterloo Arts and Entertainment District, and as such, it's a community asset in that it provides parking to the area businesses, entertainment venues, so forth. MOCAP conducted a condition assessment of the property and found it to be in good condition. We also had phase 1 environmental investigation done and found no issues of concern. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This was heard in DPS, Councilman Hairston, and then the councilman on record is Councilman Mike Polinsik. All right, Councilman Polinsik.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, my honorable colleagues. As Ms. DeGennaro indicated, the Northeast Shores Development Corporation is winding down. They're defunct, and this was their last piece of real property that they owned. And I thought it would be appropriate for it to go to the city of Cleveland so it could benefit the Waterloo Arts area of our neighborhood, which is a growing arts district. So I would urge my colleagues to please support this legislation.
Thank you. All right, this is ordinance number 1388-2023. Seeing no other questions. Also, Councilman Bishop, I think this went to your committee. Did you have any comments? Oh, no, I'm sorry. This is 2824. Oh, no, so this is not you. Never mind. That's it. So seeing no other questions, ordinance number 28-2024 stands approved. Please sign on.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is ordinance number 1388-2023 by council members McCormick, Bishop, Hairston, Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance to vacate a portion of the Detroit Superior Viaduct. And Director, did you have any
Yes,
comments?
thank you. To my left is Robert Chappelle. He's in the Engineering and Construction Division of Capital Projects. He's the Section Chief of Design. So Rick Swatowski's out today, and he's my sidekick.
Thank you.
So I'll say that this is for a partial street vacation that's needed by Bridgeworks LLC, which is the owner and developer of a property at 2429 West Superior. And this would allow the development site to be squared off to allow for the development to move forward. The developer is M. Panzica and Grammer. And the vacated area is 0.06 acres, so it's a very small portion of the right-of-way, but all public access with regards to sidewalks will be maintained and actually improved, with much better access through and around the site as a result of this upcoming development. And then just a reminder to council, the street vacation process is quite lengthy. It's a 3-step process. First is a resolution of intent to vacate. Then we go through the Board of Revisions of Assessments. And then this is the 3rd step, which is the ordinance, which actually vacates the roadway. So we're pleased to be at the end of the road for the street vacation to allow the project to move forward.
Thank you so much. This went through Development Planning and Sustainability and Municipal Services. Councilman Bishop.
Yes, Mr. President, we fully vetted this morning and we recommend it for passage.
Thank you. Councilman Hairston.
Yes, fully support. I didn't realize we still had any Superior Viaduct left until Councilman McCormick and our director, assured me we did. Because I know we've seen Superior Viaduct several times. So I was shocked that we had more viaduct left. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman on record of the area, Councilman Kerry McCormick.
Full support. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you so much. Seeing no other questions, ordinance number 1388-2023 stands approved. Please sign on.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next up, could you, Director, can we follow up and please let me know if I'm missing something? But I know that was, I know I seen that on some list somewhere, but if you could.
I'll do it right when I get back.
Appreciate you, sir. Thank you. All right. Next up is Human Resources. And I believe this is Director Cole. This is ordinance number, and I believe YOU is going to join us as well. So I don't know if this is Director Cole or is this Chief Sonia Pryor. This is the YOU piece. All right. So ordinance number 82-2024 by Councilmembers Santana and Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Finance on behalf of the Office of Prevention, Intervention, and Opportunity to employ one or more professional consultants to design and implement a summer 2024 youth and young adult employment program not to exceed a total term of 18 months with one or more options to renew for an additional total term not to exceed 18 months, exercisable by the Director of Finance. Chief and her team, do you want to announce who all the team and guests are?
Good afternoon, Council President and council members. With me, I have Sherry Ellery, who directs our expanded programs in the PIO office, and we have our colleague Craig Dorn, CEO and President of YOU.
Thank you. I know we're going to have a couple of questions on this, but did you want to go into any presentation? Because I got a couple of things that I need to try to verify, but you first.
Council President, today we bring before you a standard piece of legislation from the PIO office that is focused on youth and young adult employment. This piece of legislation would allow for us to have job opportunities available starting this summer. We typically are able to employ about 250 youth in partnership with YOU. Those are mostly high school age young people. And in addition to that, our expanded programs also works with several organizations that focus on community-based service opportunities for younger children, giving them an opportunity for stipend-based employment. And so we bring this to you. We had an opportunity to come here last week and speak with the Education and Workforce Committee, and look forward to talking with you all about it today.
Thank you. And remind me, is this the program that we usually do every year?
To Council President, yes, this is typically our every year summer program.
And what department usually manages this? Because this is also for 18 months, so this is usually year-round, and that's usually a little bit more expensive than the actual summer program.
To Council President, we have This has usually been summer through PIO, but last year we instituted a year-round experience focusing on those high-need areas, specifically lifeguards, because as you know, we had a lifeguard shortage, and so we wanted to do our part through YOU's Academy format to train and pay young people to get the certification to become lifeguards for the city pools. And we were able to support recreation and training so that they can then hire 11 young people who became lifeguards for the city. We also did that with a marketing academy.
Okay, so this will be going straight to the PIO office, because in the past, I think they used to have a contract with water.
To Council President, YOU has had multiple contracts with the City of Cleveland, and so this is the standing PIO contract that we've had for several years. Their work with the Water Department is a completely separate contract because we're not able to mix those types of contracts.
Okay, and this 1.4 million, where is that coming from? Because I don't recall, that's not coming out of American Rescue Act dollars, or where is it coming from?
To Council President, that is coming from the general fund.
Okay, so it's coming from the general fund. Where was it budgeted in the general fund? In 2024 or 2023, or is this coming out of carryover?
And so, Council President, this is from our general fund contractual dollars in the 2024 budget.
Okay, the reason I'm asking is because some of my colleagues have really requested trying to beef up our youth employment strategy for this upcoming year. So it may be good if you have some numbers on how or what it may look like if we want to throw some supplemental dollars towards that, because Mr. Dorn knows very well, in the previous position that I had, probably the best year that we've had with violence prevention is when we were able to put, when President Obama put forth stimulus dollars, and we were able to almost hire any young person in the city of Cleveland that needed a job. Since then, I know that those dollars have diminished tremendously, but as my former friend and colleague, Councilman Reed, used to say, nothing beats a bullet like a job. So we believe if we can put more people to work, then that would help with our, future. And I'm glad that you also are springboarding them into, no pun intended, to the lifeguard, because it's beyond me or why we cannot find more lifeguards. And I think you putting them on that way is interesting. One last thing, and then I'll turn it over to any of my colleagues for questions. It used to be very, very tied to workforce. And it was almost, especially when you were talking about year-round, they were almost like, how do we begin to put them in a career path? Are we really working at trying to work with some of these young people to make sure that this experience can get them certifications or other things so that actually they can turn this into a permanent opportunity and not just a temporary one?
To Council President, in some instances, that academy format is designed specifically for that. And so for the young people, we've already described the certification credential immediately, which is the lifeguard training that allows them to, get paid at that rate to be a lifeguard for the city of Cleveland or anywhere else that might need a lifeguard. They walk away with that credential. With the marketing academy, there were also several credential-based experiences built into that program that would allow young people to have something that they could put into their resume and use as a really thoughtful transferable skill to other job opportunities. I would also add that while you could talk with you more about how they're doing this work in partnership with the city, the school districts, and other workforce partners to provide young people with credentials that they could use for their long-term career plans, as well as the partnership that the city has with GCCC.
Great, thank you. Did you want to add anything, Mr. Dorn? It's been working together with Mr. Dorn a long time.
Thank you, Council President. Yeah, I would add, just to further emphasize some of the things Chief Pryor-Jones indicated, we have added this academy model that she referenced, a few others I'd like to call out. We have 200 young people, primarily through our partnership with John Marshall and Cleveland State, doing an IT academy. We will have 50 young people in a partnership with Newbridge doing a healthcare academy, another 50 in partnership with Magnet doing a a manufacturing academy, and another 50 in partnership with a variety of organizations doing a construction academy. So absolutely focused on, especially for 11th and 12th graders, turning the summer job into a career.
Thank you so much. All right. I know that she stepped out for a minute, but Councilwoman Santana, I know she heard this in her committee, but I'll go to Councilman Starr, then Palencia.
Thank you, Council President and committee. One of the things that I definitely wanted to touch on through the chair and Council President and to my colleagues is, that during the 2023 Youth Employed by Award, we had a grand total around 240 different youth, and I believe those are the young adults. To the chair, to Director, not to Executive Director Dorn or Chief Sonia Pryor Jones, is that to make sure that 240 number, which costed about $395,000, that 240 those are the young adults, or are they just the youth?
Through Council President to Councilman Starr, these are youth, not young adults. And so these are high school age students.
That the city funded, right?
That the city funded.
Got it. So from my standpoint, to my standpoint of understanding that, Council President, I definitely would throw this out there. I'm always a stipular, like you said, with Zach Reed, always mentioned, nothing stops crime or a bullet but a job. And if we're funding 240 youth and it costing $394,000, I think about how much money we allocate throughout the city for stuff that just doesn't help at all. How do we find a strategy to put more funding into funding more jobs for youth, so we can be able to say we have 1,000 youth through the funding that we're providing as members of council? And based on my numbers, just looking at this and over some data that I received from the department, I mean, we toss around $1 million here, $2 million here, and then we just had a supplemental transfer over, carryover of $56 million from last year's budget. Then we just cut the positions of police officers that no longer exist and took that down to 1,175 officers. And then you start talking about what is these youth doing in the community? What are they doing every day? They outside trying to make a way. And what I mean by this is, how do we at this table come up with a plan to employ through the funding that the city of Cleveland, through this council, is funding 1,000 jobs for these young people? I just want to know how we
Ms.
do that.
Guillory, did you guys want to respond or say anything to that?
Through Council President to Councilman Starr, a couple of things. First and foremost, we thank the entire council for your consideration to add additional employment dollars to make sure we have as many young people working this summer as possible. We do want to make sure, though, that the math makes sense that is on this slide, because we have shared with council before that all of the young people being employed that might reside in the city of Cleveland have mixed funding dollars that are supporting their employment. And so you have some dollars from city council as well as some dollars from the county by way of TANF. The other thing I will mention to you is we've tried our best in PIO to be extremely great stewards of the city dollars. And so where there was an opportunity to extend contracts and dollars and spend what was already available, we did that in some cases over multiple years. And so I just want to turn it over to Sherry Ellery to help you understand the math that is on this slide.
Ms. Guillory?
Thank you. Through the chair to the councilman, I just want to clarify the dollar amounts on this slide that you see before you. The $394,756.29 represents the money that went directly to the youth in terms of the salaries that they earned. The total cost of the program last year was $699,494. What we are anticipating for this year, you'll see in your last slide, for the YOU program, we're anticipating $9,337. That includes the entire package, the youth salaries, as well as administrative salaries, the salaries that it costs, the things that it costs to actually implement the program, find the businesses that the youth will work in as they move forward, and other costs that are associated with the program. And it's broken out there for you.
Yes, and that is really, really great, because overall included throughout the county included, there's 1,848 people who participated in this program last year, young folks. But then you look at it, the number of applicants, we were well over 3,700 people apply. Right now, the portal has been open for approximately 12 days, going on 12 days. Young folks are applying for these jobs. But the reality is there's not enough funding. There's not enough funding for us to employ all of them. But if we're going to continue to just say we're going to keep this threshold at this 230 range, I don't want us all screaming why these people are out here acting a fool when they're crying out for help and they asking for a job, when they went out there and applied for a job, when you as a council person sat the young person down at the library and helped them fill out for a job. But then once while you go through their vetting process and you look up and say everybody not able to get a job, I don't want nobody coming back saying we did everything we could. What I'm saying is, from us as a council, as we're going into this budget cycle, as we're looking at this ordinance, how do we add additional funding to make sure we in Cleveland do our part to make sure that we have 1,000 youth in our city working? When I look at certain different wards, they got youth that will want to work. One thing I always talk about, I would love to have a crew of 5 to 10 young people working through my office and doing the jobs. We got job placements that we could put them at. But if we're going to just give 240 youth in the city of Cleveland jobs and say that's enough is enough, then we're doing a disservice to our people. And then if we need to strategize a long-term solution, let's figure out that strategy. But we can't keep just saying 240 youth each year in the city of Cleveland working when we got 3,700 of them asking for a job. That doesn't help us. That is a problem within itself. And YOU has been around for almost 50 years. So if we already got the data, we already got the metrics, we put money to wherever makes sense when it comes to certain projects and certain things, but when it comes to our youth, we cannot shortchange them and expect them to become great or expect them to succeed when they're not even getting the same opportunities that they are asking for. So if we're going to allow 3,700, like I said, to apply for this position and only 240 is coming out the city, or a total of 1,848 is only getting those jobs throughout the county, then we have not did our role by making sure the county is doing their part, we're doing our part, and we're making sure our kids get jobs. So to close, and I yield, Chair, because this is real frustrating for me, I would love for us to have 1,000 young people in the city of Cleveland working in 2024, and that should be the start of the threshold for us to be able to show that we're trying to save our kids and we're going to give them opportunities that they deserve.
Councilman, before we do that, Councilwoman, do you just want to be on the list, or did you want to actually have it? All right, on that point, if Councilwoman Spencer can proceed. Councilman, do you mind?
Thank you,
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, and thank you, Councilman Starr, for allowing me a point. I wanted just to, knowing that through the chair, I wanted to clarify that this is an increase from last year's contract. We're increasing from 600,000 some to nearly $1 million to YOU specifically. How many, is that an accurate statement, first? And then second, how many additional youth, if we hit 240 last year, how many additional youth do we anticipate in 2024?
Chief, Ms. Ullery.
through the chair to Councilwoman Spencer. So this is the slide that lets you see where the entire $1.4 million is going. And so you will see that a portion of this is for YOU, a portion of this is for towards employment, which is focused on actually young adults. And then we also have a portion for Kent State University, Cleveland Freedom Project, and Greater Cleveland Neighborhood Association. And all of those are focused on stipend-based programs for younger children.
Thank you. And so I'm sorry, I should have referred to through the chair to the slide immediately prior to that. I think my question was how many youth, Councilman Starr is saying, let's meet a bar of 1,000 youth employed. It looks like with the current funding being allocated, we are anticipating 345 youth. I want to just clarify that point. So there's this gap, right, of over 600 youth between the vision that Councilman Starr is setting forward and what is currently being funded. So I think that's an important discussion we're having today. That was really
Thank you,
the point I wanted to
Councilwoman.
make.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Did you have any other clarifying comments to Councilman Starr's statements?
No, Council President.
All right. I have up next Councilman Mike Polensek and then Councilman Kerry McCormick.
Thank you. Thank you.
Councilman Kevin Conway.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, my honorable colleagues, to the director and to the folks that are here from the youth program. From a standpoint of administrating the program, in the presentation here, what is the cost to administer the program?
To the council and through the chair, the cost of the program includes basically 90% of it is either wages and stipends directly to the young people or wages and stipends to staff supporting young people. There's two primary staff job coaches who work with them throughout the entire intake process through the conclusion. And as we've talked about, this is now a year-round program. We provide a year of follow-up. Pure admin is about, I'm looking at this chart, about 15%. That also does include some things like supportive services,
Yes.
bus tickets, uniforms, background checks, as well as some training and orientation materials.
Okay. To the director, I think in the future we need to have that broken out so we can exactly see what the cost of administering this program is. I'm not talking salaries to the kids or supplies or things that the kids need, whether it be transportation, bus tickets, whatever. I'd like to see exactly what it's costing to administer the program. And to follow up on Councilman Starr and others, obviously, I'd like to see the program expanded as well. And I didn't have the benefit of having programs available like this when I was coming up and growing up in a single mother head of household with 4 of us. So I was fortunate. I was able to get a job working in a factory during the summer. That's why I have 2 bent fingers from whacking them with hammers. But the fact of the matter is, that having that job at 14 years old, those jobs I started working when I was 14 years old because that's when you get a work permit, and I never stopped working ever since. But it kept me out of trouble. I was able to buy clothes because my mother couldn't. I was able to go to the movies and do this because my mother didn't have the money. So I always think back how important that little bit I made during the summer or on the weekends when I worked as well, or after school when I could, there or working at a car dealership, washing cars and putting on license plates, how that stuff all helped me. And so I want to drive the message home to the administration. We got to figure out how to up the ante here. So to whoever can answer, we are plugging in the City of Cleveland, the administration's recommending, council has been supportive in the past. Are there any outside dollars that come in to this pool? Are there any outside monies that come in
through the chair to Councilman Polenzek, if you look at YOU's overall breakdown specifically for their youth employment program, a portion of their dollars are public dollars between the city and Cuyahoga County, and then
Yes.
they have a portion of funding that is coming from philanthropy as well. While you can also speak more specifically to what those portions look like, but I think we've talked about it at this table before that right now, public dollars are significantly covering the cost of these programs, and we'd like to see more happening with other parts of our community to ensure that our young people are prepared.
So to the director of YOU, how much comes in from private folks, private entities?
To Councilman Polensek, through the chair, private philanthropy doing a quick, and I'm going to provide this for
Yes.
the entire
Thank you.
committee. This is the sources of, it actually answers a lot of the questions that have come up. Sources of funding, the breakdown of cost, the types of jobs and careers. But to answer your program directly, I'm looking, we do get our largest share from the county. We do get some ARPA dollars from the city and county, and then when we get into the private sector, it looks like about a little under $1 million.
Under $1 million. Okay, so to my brothers and sisters sitting here at the table, we've got billionaires in this city. Billionaires. We got millionaires, and we got mega companies here. And it really troubles me. Something as important as hiring kids, getting kids off the street, putting some money in their pockets so they can do some things. Or maybe, as you've indicated, hooking or getting their interest in some other possible profession or skill level where they can go on. I think it's extremely troubling. And it goes back to why we're in this jackpot in this city today. Number one or number two in poverty, number one or number two in childhood poverty. And we have got to figure, I think that the mayor has to use the bully pulpit. All of us have to use the bully pulpit to say to the corporate community and the people with the fat checkbooks, you got to do more here. Look at the statistics that we're dealing with in our neighborhoods. Look at the level of violence, juvenile violence, youth-related violence. A couple weeks ago, I saw a report, there's like 40 kids over in juvenile detention city linked to homicides.
41.
41. I mean, that's a disgrace. That's an embarrassment. That's tragic. I mean, we got to figure out how to do a better job. We got to hire kids. We have to have more vocational technical programs for our kids to tap into. I believe the overwhelming majority of kids, we can hook them. If we can hook them in something, we can get them on a different path. But we're not doing that. And so it goes back to like the problem we're having with swimming in the city. Well, I'm looking at a swimming pool at Collinwood High School sitting empty for 6+ years, if not longer. So how can we train kids to be lifeguards when the only pool on the northeast side of the city is sitting there empty at Collinwood High School? Because they don't give a rat's ass about those kids on the east side. Okay? That's what they don't. They don't care about them. They write them off. We got to figure out, we've got to quit writing off these kids. And so, Mr. Chairman, I'm committed. I'm prepared to do whatever we have to do to up the ante here. We need to provide more money, and we need to say to these guys that are always out there with their hands out like the beggars up on Prospect Avenue, no, you throw some money in this pot. Make a difference. You want a legacy? Put some kids to work. Do something differently to make our town different and improve these kids' lives. Because I'm telling you, the older I get, the more sick and tired I am of seeing and hearing this crap, quite frankly. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Councilman Kerry McCormick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of years later, Councilman Polensek, I also started working, it was either 14 or 15, for Joe Morgan on Lakeshore Boulevard. You'll remember him, God rest his soul. And I remember when I got my first pay, I felt like a millionaire. I mean, it was probably like $6 an hour or whatever it was. We were cleaning carpets. We were tarring his roof over there where the floors used to burn off of Lakeshore. I just remember getting that first pay, and I felt like a millionaire. Like, it's one of those feelings, but far from it, but felt like it to myself. Chairman, I'll be brief. A lot's been said. I want to thank the Director of YOU for being here. Your organization does great work. I want to thank the Chief for her advocacy on this issue. I know she's met with a lot of us. She's met with leadership about how important this is. Councilwoman Santana on this as well. The Chief has been very effective on advocating of why this program is so important. So I really want to recognize you and your team for the good work that you've done. Mr. Chairman, as you noted, and we talk about frequently, during the Obama administration, those additional funds that came in, we saw the lowest 2 years in youth violence in the city of Cleveland. These things are very much related, right? The better paths we put folks on, the more productive use. I know it kept me busy when I was a kid, growing up in Ward 8, and I know that that's a similar story for many people as well. Councilman Starr had a great line of testimony, and I know, Mr. Chairman, that we're going to handle the transfer together as a package. But Councilman Starr, to your point, I think this body needs to act on this. The chief, I know, has been really involved in this conversation. This, to me, I mean, these are our kids. These are our kids, collectively, all of our kids. Yes. And so I think this is a top-notch opportunity to invest some of those transfer funds in our kids, in our community, in our neighborhoods. As Councilman Starr noted, we've got the metrics, we've got the system to do it. And Mr. Chairman, I fully support increasing the funding for this line item. And again, I know you want to do an organized process, and I think that makes sense. But as we go forward, we should invest tax dollars into our children, into our young people in our neighborhoods. We got the folks that can execute on it and get it done. So I fully endorse that. I will co-sponsor that amendment when that time comes, Mr. Chairman. And I think that we should move forward on that. There's no better investment than in our young people. I fundamentally believe that. So, Mr. Chair, when that time comes, again, I want to thank the chief and the director here and the whole team, but when that time comes, I will co-sponsor that increase. Thank you.
Absolutely. And let me say this. I think that everybody's willing to commit more dollars to this. And what Councilman McCormick is talking about is what I plan on doing, and what I would like to do is with the money that we have left over from the carryover ordinance to have a discussion on how we allocate those dollars, because I would like to do one clean ordinance. But what would be helpful to us is making sure, one, that you guys have the capacity, because I don't want to throw money at this and then we say we can't meet the metrics that are in place, and make sure that there's an understanding of how many supervisors per children. I think the last I checked is like a ratio of 1 to 5 or 1 to 6 or something like that, because that factors into the cost. And do you have the ability to ramp up between now and this year in order to do that? So there's some cost associated with that, but I think you hear a willingness from this body that we want to invest more. I just want us to be reasonable and make sure that we are within the scope of work that you can do. So you might want to look at what an extra 250, 500 or whatever, and maybe give a scale of what that looks like or what an extra million looks like. I'm just saying we just need to understand that. So as we have a deliberation, a council can understand how these dollars will be leveraged and if they're going to leverage other money as well. Okay? And on that point, I know the councilwoman, because this will, she's worked closely with it.
Yes.
I got you just on
We
that
had
point.
a very robust meeting at Workforce, so I do appreciate my colleagues' questions, but on that point, I'm not sure through the chair to chief if you mentioned this, but it was my understanding that although 3,000 youth applied, many were turned away because of their family's income
and
or
other
because some type of paperwork was missing. And I just kind of clarity on that, just on the same page. What is that paperwork? And maybe what you're asked, maybe we could also find out what paperwork or what could we help with to beef up those numbers.
Through Council President to Councilwoman Santana, I'll give you what I know collectively, and then I'll turn to my colleague, Craig Dorn, to say more. I do know a number of young people who are funded for summer programs are meeting the TANF guidelines, and so those guidelines require a certain level at the poverty level and certain types of paperwork, and at times people don't meet the guidelines or they don't have the paperwork. So that's one piece. I think the other piece, which was raised by Councilman Starr, is also having enough funding to actually give everyone a job. And so I think those are the mixes of items that have consistently not allowed for YOU to accommodate everyone in the summer program. But I'll turn to Craig Dorn in case there's more that I've missed.
To the councilwoman through the chair, Chief Pryor Jones got it 100% accurate. The only thing I would add, as we discussed at your committee, the number one document, believe it or not, is student picture ID, which can be solved by schools issuing an ID. So it's a pretty low cost, no cost to the actual families, and I would imagine pretty low cost for a school to issue an ID. Going to follow up with Chief Pomerantz on that for CMSD, but also many of our young people attend schools that are not CMSD. So if there are private, not so much the large Catholic schools, but if there are charter schools or homeschool scenarios in your neighborhoods, anything that you can do, you collectively counsel to make sure those schools issue an ID, that would be the most helpful use of council's political might.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
All right, thank you. All right, anything else, Councilman McCormick? No, thank you. All right, thank you. I have Councilman Conwell, Harrison, Casey.
That you are, that need to be not just for the summer to the chair, it need to be ongoing, constantly. And then maybe even once a week to the chair, maybe have a classroom setting to teach. See, when you have your job developers, so you can teach the children about job retention and other job spots. Here's an example, Chief, going to the chair, to the chief. Let's say, for example, a place that people really don't want to work, McDonald's. They don't want to work McDonald's, right? But here's the kicker. You can make $100,000 jobs there. There's other job spots. See, they don't know the way. You can work in purchasing and procurement. You can work in real estate. You can do LSM, which is called local store marketing there. But they'll come there and they only focus on flipping fries. They can get their CDLs and drive for McDonald's over state line or whatever and make over $100,000 a year. So, but they don't know the way, and you have to show children success, and they have to see success every day. You know, what did I do, Blaine? I was a jobs man, and that's where your cat got that from. But here's the point. He did. You know, you was with me. You got to teach them and do job coaching, and it has to be in there. And the other piece, when you said consultants, these consultants would do what? Job coaching, job training, or what? What are those kind of things they're going to do?
Chief?
Through Council President to Councilman Conwell, the things that you have been mentioning around coaching and overall support and helping young people, particularly a lot of young people where this is their first employment opportunity ever, the additional staff that YOU hires to support those young people through the summer is coaching them and supporting them. Sometimes it's not even as big as helping them understand all of the career opportunities available in the organization. Sometimes it's as simple as how to make sure you set your alarm clock so you can get up and get to work on time. And so depending on who our young people are, that's why these placements with smaller groups of young people with coaches is so essential, because their needs really do range.
Yeah, but you need the life skills. Life skills, Chief, is very, very important. A little at a time, life skills, life coaching, individual service plans, all those kind of things is very important. That need to be in there. And the other thing, what I would do to hit some numbers, you talk with businesses like University Hospital. You talk with businesses like Cleveland Clinic. You ask them to come help you put on a job fair. And so you could try to get some of these young people jobs that will supplement what we're doing right now. And you could do a youth and employment job fair right here in City Hall, right in the rotunda. To the chair.
Through Council President Griffin to Councilman Conwell, you're spot on, and in fact, in a recent community convening, the mayor committed to community partners that we would host a youth job fair here at City Hall, and I know my colleagues, Michelle Rose and Matt Cole, are working on that right now with a number of community partners.
Yeah, you could bring in, like, through the chair, bring in companies like Frito-Lay or Pepsi-Cola or Coca-Cola. They have internships, they can hire our people. And then when you bring in companies that have a big name like Coca-Cola, Frito-Lay, that's how you will attract other people. If you just say a job fair, they won't come. But if you bring in Pepsi-Cola and you talk with them, and Coca-Cola and Frito-Lay, at any job fair, they will come. You bring in Sharon Williams. We just did an event there with Sharon Williams. And then sometimes the children may not get a job, but their mother and fathers will get a job, and that's how we'll stabilize the household. And so when that household is stabilized, see, work is therapeutic. And when work being therapeutic, it keeps the whole family together and you keep crime down. But you can bring the big boys in. East Target, RTA. Think about your key stakeholders. RTA, people will come for RTA. If you put RTA on a flyer, they're coming. You see what I'm saying? So these outcome measures must remain, and not just in the summertime. If they're good workers and you work with them, it's called job retention. That's what word I'm looking for. To the chair, to the chief, and you work with them, let's say on a Friday or whatever, and you teach them how to work and how to cross-train workers, how to do job enlargements. Then sometimes companies like RTA would keep them to sweep the buses or whatever, and then you teach them to cultivate from doing that to one day being an accountant or whatever. But if they don't see that when they go off to college or whatever the case may be, or get a trade, they don't know what to ask for. They don't know what to ask for. And so then someone will say, if I get a felony or a misdemeanor, I can't do this or that, because they got their mind on a career, okay? So we could do more than just this. We could, because here's the thing. Even if one person got a job, the entire community would benefit. The entire community would benefit because you're putting people to work. And we got to get them job ready. And once you cultivate them and get them job ready, I tell you what, the reason why a lot of companies don't come to Cleveland, because they're not job ready, and you have to train the workers, and you spend so much money training workers that companies won't come here because it affects their training dollars. But if you have that classroom and you train the workers, then guess what? More companies want to come because Cleveland has a trained workforce. And you could do it in this program right here. You could do it in this program right here by training people to get good outcome measures. And you can evaluate it through the chair to the chief.
To Council President Griffin, to Councilman Conwell, it sounds like you have just volunteered to be a part of these advisory groups that are working to put on job fairs and make these programs better, so we'll be calling you up.
Oh, well, you have my number on speed dial anyway. You could call me. I still know a lot of businesses, and I talk with a lot of businesses about hiring people, Lincoln Electric, all of them, and I talk with a lot of companies, and I've gotten a lot of people jobs and employment, and you know, I can help you. I can help out.
Thank
Even
you,
making the
Councilman.
phone calls to the people, because it's about job development. What you want to look at when you do that is job placement. Later on, even with their fathers or mothers, and you stabilize the household, you want to look at the average wage, how much they're making. You want to look at the, is something with benefits is in there, all of that stuff, and then job retention. Because we could, here's the numbers up here. You say you want to place 230 young people. Councilmember Starr wants 1,000, but when you place 230, do you think the whole 230 will survive for the summer? You might only get 125 or 130 that might make it through because they're not job ready. That job readiness and job retention goes hand in hand. We'll sit down, we'll have lunch, we'll discuss it, we'll talk about it.
Thank
All
you,
right?
Councilman Conwell.
Cool beans.
All right,
Man,
thank
you. Anyway. I wake you up at 4 o'clock in the morning with ideas.
All right.
So
Thank
we'll
you,
do
sir.
that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman.
Let me get back over here.
All right, Councilman Hairston and Casey.
Thank you, Mr. President, to the chair, to the team. What we're discussing today, I know last October, we received an email from your staff, Ms. Eulery, for the youth employment RFP. Is that what this is? Is this the response to that youth employment RFP?
Chief?
Through Council President to Councilman Harrison, yes.
Okay, this is it. All right. Did we notify, who else, how many people applied? Do we know?
Through Council President to Councilman Harrison, we had 7 applicants.
7 applicants? Were they all city-based, or they just kind of, just from all over?
To Council President through Councilman Harrison, I would have to go back and look at the details about their headquarters.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious whether they were folks from inside the city or we had some folks abroad as well. And because we never heard back that who was chosen. I know we received the information that, it was going out, but, I'm assuming this is us hearing back, right? This is us hearing back, but okay. Did we notify the other applicants that they weren't chosen at all, or we just kind of just left it?
Through Council President to Councilman Harrison, whenever we have an RFP process, we do notify.
Do notify when folks are not chosen? Okay.
Correct.
All right. Do we know when that went out?
Through Council President to Councilman Harrison, I can get that verified for you.
Okay, I'd appreciate it. I'm just interested in who applied and were the other folks notified that they weren't chosen. Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Casey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, to Mr. Dorn, can you reiterate to us or tell us again why you're no longer affiliated with the Water Department? Only because I asked that because everybody's sitting at the table saying we need to hire more, we need to expand this. But the Water Department paid for that, right? That came out of their budget. So can you just tell us why you're no longer with the Water Department?
Sure. To Councilman Casey through the chair, we work with the Water Department from 2006 until 2022. Discontinued the arrangement basically for the primary reason that as the years had gone on, the amount of money that we received was pretty constant, but the costs were going up, and so we began to find it to be a scenario where we were losing money in that cost center in a substantial way. That said, we're always willing to re-engage with public utilities, and just last week met with Anthony Houston of Cleveland Public Power and are talking about a modest summer jobs program with Cleveland Public Power this year.
All right, thank you. And then, Mr. Chairman, to the chief, looking at your contract breakdown, you've got TE, GCNCA, and KSU. I know who KSU is, but what's TE and GCNCA?
Greater Cleveland Neighborhood Centers Association.
Through Council President to Councilman Casey, Greater Cleveland Neighborhoods Association and Towards Employment.
Okay, thank you. And then looking at the breakdown here, it looks like only $599,125 is going to actually paying the workers, the kids who are working, for the participant stipend and the pay. So that leaves $798,000 of this $1.4 million ask that's not going into the pockets of the kids. So can you, there's a lot here in salary, instruction, costs, and payroll, and none of those are City of Cleveland employees, right? That would be YOU, or here the 255 would be for YOU staff?
Through Chairwoman Santana to Councilman Casey. I'm sorry, through Chairman McCormick, sorry about that, to Councilman Casey. I think I heard a two-part question. One, that separate from the dollars for participant stipends and pay, the other dollars were going to other expenses. Yes, that is correct. That is based on the business models of these 5 different organizations that we're working with. And then I think the second part of the question was, are any City of Cleveland employees paid through these dollars? And that is no.
Okay. So when we've got 255, 99, 71, and 34, we're paying 354, almost, we're paying close to 500,000 in 450, whatever that comes to, in salaries of the 1.4 million. And then can you tell us what the other contract services is?
Through Councilman McCormick to Councilman Casey. It always takes me a minute. You are correct in the numbers that you see there for overall salaries, instructor, and payroll costs for each of the organizations. And your specific question in regards to YOU, I will let Mr. Dorm speak to the contractual services line.
To the councilman through Chair McCormick, it's a good time to maybe pass out this document that I was initially inspired by Councilman Polensek. If those of you who are on Councilwoman Santana's do not take, this is a repeat of, I don't think we brought enough. It shows the breakdown of a couple different things that answer some questions that were raised today, but I would call to your attention the first pie charts, 2024 cost of supporting a summer youth participant, to directly answer Councilman Casey's question. So the breakdown here of staff is staff who are doing the thing that Councilman Conwell was talking about, the coaching, the mentoring, the year-round support. The reason contract services cover some of that is because we hire a lot of temporary summer staff who do not need to work year-round to provide some of the coaching. Also, see 3% is for items that go directly to the youth. The biggest of those is by far bus tickets. Also, some direct program support that includes financial literacy materials. We have a pretty innovative financial literacy project we've done in partnership with Chief Pryor Jones and Director Ellery that has peers mentoring other peers on that. And so this is a more clear breakdown. It doesn't quite match that, but if you were to take that and transpose it to this, you can see exactly where the dollars are going.
And Mr. Chairman, to either the chief or Mr. Dorn, can you see where I would have an issue with only 40% of the dollars that we're allocating actually going into the pockets of the kids? I mean, that's what we're here. That's what we're here about, right? When I see so much money going into salaries.
So to the councilman, actually, so 37%. Those are all salaries of staff who are supporting the young people, providing them the coaching and mentoring. Again, going back to what Councilman Conwell said, we actually do have a 91% success rate, and that's because we meet with them for several months before, once a week during, and once or twice a month after the program. So yes, wages are not going, but for these programs to be successful, these young people need coaching and mentoring. Then when you add 3% goes to bus tickets, just not paying anyone's salary, 80% of the dollars, really 84% of the dollars go at some way to supporting youth. And yes, the majority is wages, 46%, but the others all support the youth, so it's a successful program addressing some of the things that were talked about here today, make it more tied to careers, academies, make it more tied to making sure the young people are successful. So I would say the answer is that it is an adult whose job is to support and coach youth is supporting the youth, even if the wages aren't going directly to them. And overall, it's closer to 85% going to support youth directly.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To Mr. Dorn, I'm just going to tell you. So we sat here and we listened to how you pulled out from the water department, and now I'm learning that only less than 50% goes into the pockets of the youth, right? I understand your other supports. I understand the other support stuff, which goes toward helping the kid learn, whatever, become a better adult. But when the less than 50% is actually going into the pockets of the kids, right? And that's what every council member sat here before me saying, that we've got to get more kids involved. We've got to get these kids money. It's got to get them off the streets. It's got to educate them. It's got to train them for the future. I have a hard time with knowing you pulled out of one program and then less than 50% going into the pockets of the kids. So on that, that's just my opinion. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
If I
Thank you,
may
Mr.
address
Chairman.
one thing, Mr. Chair,
Yep.
to Councilman Casey, the water department budget did not look like this at all. That model was completely different. All the young people showed up to Harvard. There was $50,000 a year in transportation, because once they came to Harvard, they had to be transported to the neighborhood. As Council President Griffin had mentioned when he was talking about a 1-to-5 ratio, that program covered the supervisors directly and were paid directly. This program, as the document that I passed out shows, leverages millions of dollars. What is not even on there is when all these young people work at these companies, there's yet another supervisor. So if they work at, say, McDonald's or Zone Rec Center, there are supervisors there that are being leveraged, and in the water department that was not leveraged. So to compare this to the water department would not be accurate, and would be happy to talk more offline about the differences in those costs.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, to the Chief, one other question. Does KSU, GC, NCA, and TE, do they all work for or in conjunction with YOU, or is it all separate?
Through Councilman McCormick to Councilman Casey, they are separate organizations.
Okay. So, and how long, Mr. Chairman, to the Chief, how many hours per day do these kids work?
Through Councilman McCormick to Councilman Casey, I'm going to also have Sherry jump in on this. I think the distinction is the age also. Those programs tend to work with younger children, the stipend-based programs, and so we have to format those a little differently, but Sherry can tell you the hours.
Through the chair to Councilman Casey. For the Greater Cleveland Neighborhood Centers Association, that's about 3 hours a day for 4 days a week. And these are the children that are 10 to 14. They're learning those pre-employment skills. And it's a community service-oriented project. The same thing with Kent State University. It's 5 days a week from 1:30 to 5, and it's 5 days a week, and it's 3 weeks.
Okay.
So, and again, it's mostly the younger kids, although they do take 15, 16-year-olds as well, who may not have opted to go for the youth employment, summer youth employment. The Towards Employment is the young adult program, and that's a new program that we are looking to implement this year. And it starts out with a training career readiness program, much like Councilman Conwell referenced, and then they do an observed work experience, and then Ohio Means Jobs helps work with them to get them, and Towards Employment helps work with them to get them full-time regular employment.
All right, thank you. Thank you all. Thanks. Mr.
Thank you,
Chairman.
Councilman. Hearing no additional questions, 82-2024 is approved. Please sign. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we are going to, looks like we've got Public Works here. Come on up. And did you want to, yep.
Yeah, these could just be left with you, Mr.
Wonderful. Yeah,
Chair.
if you wouldn't mind with the clerk right there, and we'll get
Clerk, you
those out
got
to
it.
members. Thank you so much. All righty, we will start with 1384-2023 by council members Bishop and Griffin by departmental request, emergency ordinance Authorize the Director of Public Works and Finance to contract with one or more temporary employment agencies to provide professional services to supply temporary and seasonal personnel for the Department of Public Works and the Project Clean program and for various departments of the city for a period of up to 1 year. Public Works, come on up. Sorry, Jazz. This is 1384, 2023. Director, good afternoon. 1384, sir. Yes, sir. 1384.
All right. To the chair, passage of this legislation will allow the general and any other fund allocations to the Division of Park Maintenance to clean out and cut vacant lots, vacant structures, also the parks, also the cemeteries. Passage of this legislation will allow CDBG funds to be allocated as well to the Division of Park Maintenance and Properties to hire seasonal workers to clean and cut city-owned land bank properties. I have also Assistant Director Laird here for any questions.
So, Chair, we noticed in the Municipal Service Committee, we noticed that the legislation is missing a piece, and we wanted to ask for an amendment at the table. It's a very simple piece. It just leaves out our ability to use other funds. So, as you can recall, those who were here, that piece only said that we could use general fund money, but there is block grant money and there's other types of money that we need to use. So
Okay.
we have an amendment on the floor, or we would like to ask for an amendment.
Okay. I'm going to ask my chair if he's supportive of that amendment. Councilman Bishop, if you could pass that down. I know this went through Municipal Services. All right, the chairman is supportive. Chair of Municipal Services, would you like to motion for that amendment?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion.
Okay. Go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion to amend Section 1 in Section, to amend in Section 2, line 2, after 017012-638, insert, and other funds approved by the Director of Finance.
Thank you, Councilman. Do I have a second on that amendment? Second by Councilmember Spencer. Is there any discussion on the amendment?
Can you repeat it? Because I didn't hear it.
Yeah, Councilman Bishop, would you please repeat the amendment? Thank you.
In Section 2, line 2, after 017012-6380, insert, and other funds approved by the Director of Finance.
Okay, is there any discussion on that amendment by Councilman Bishop?
What are we trying to achieve? I'm not.
So is the Assistant Director, please restate the purpose of the amendment?
So through the chair to the councilman, if you recall the conversation we had in the municipal service about the types of funds to use, the current legislation only allows us or only says for us to be able to use general fund. But we are asking for an amendment to allow us to use more than just general fund dollars.
Oh, okay. This is not taking away the
No.
ability.
This puts it back, actually,
Yeah.
because somehow it got taken out.
It looks like when we looked at the legislation, it wasn't there. It had been there in previous legislations. It wasn't there in this one.
Okay, all right. I'm okay. I
You
know
good,
where we are
Councilman?
now. Yeah, that's fine. But
All
I
right.
wouldn't make a note just on that, just on the topic itself. You know, the CDBG budget that will come to, because I know your executive summary referenced CDBG. It references that, but it's not related to this ordinance. The CDBG portion will be in our CDBG, well, it's actually listed on the ordinance that was introduced a couple of Mondays ago relating to the CDBG portion. So I don't know why that's even in your executive summary. Maybe it's just as a point of reference, maybe.
Through the chair to the council member, that was, we had got asked about it before, so we just put it in
just
there for
add- okay.
reference, so that it didn't confuse everything, but
Yeah, I think
we
it did.
apologize for that.
Okay, no problem.
All righty, do I have any additional conversation on the proposed amendment? On the amendment, Councilman? On the amendment. Alrighty, hearing no additional questions, Madam Clerk, please call the roll on the amendment.
Yes.
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 Thank you, Madam Clerk. All right, Council President, we're 1384-2023. Mike Polensek is on deck.
All right, Councilman Pulisic.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have colleagues, and Assistant Director. Do you have any statistics, any data, what you did last year?
Through the chair to the council member, yes, we sent over some data this afternoon, but as also we do have the data for our 2023 total service visits were 66,073, and with a 26,489 unique parcel locations.
Okay, so that was emailed over to us or hard copy?
Through the chair to the council member, it was emailed over.
Okay, because I have not seen that, so I didn't have a chance
It's
to look
just
at
been
it.
in the last
probably
last hour.
Okay. So, and that's broken down by ward?
Through the chair to the council person, that's correct.
So you can, in that, whatever you send us, we'll be able to see how many actual lots, how do you describe it? What is it? Is it lots or cuts or what?
Through the chair to the council member, we have the service visits, and then because they could be multiple service visits at the same location, so you'll have the service visits, and then you'll also have the total number of actual unique parcels.
So would that be for lots and abandoned homes?
That's correct.
Would it be
Structures
broken
and
out?
lots, yes.
Okay. Then the question that was raised last year as it pertains to abandoned structures, homes, buildings, you indicated last year that you're going to bring on private contractors to do those. Where is that? Is that a part of this?
Through the chair to the councilman, this request here is only for funding for temporary labor, so it wouldn't be a part of that.
So then, how do you fund that? How did you fund that?
Through the chair to the councilman, there was an additional $1 million put into the budget just for that project.
And that was last year.
Through the chair to the councilman.
What about this year, Mr. Chairman?
Through the chair to the councilman, that's there as well for this year.
So, and that's 1 million citywide?
Through the chair to the councilman, yes.
Okay, so then, how do we know, educate me, did you break the city up by wards, by region, by districts? How did you break the city up to award those contracts?
Through the chair to the council member, we're still utilizing our subsection, but we're parceling by ward and also by unique parcels is what we're looking at this year as an operational change. For example, when we're looking at the locations, for example, if your ward had X amount more than others, we would try to put more crews in that ward to actually go where the work is. I mentioned today that as much as we try to do equitable service, the actual inventory is not equitable. So we have to make sure the operation actually flexes to the actual inventory within this program.
So then, Mr. Chairman, how do we know who's working? Again, I really want to get this pinned down. So how do I know who's working Ward 8? The private contractor on abandoned homes or abandoned buildings?
So through the chair to the councilman, that was one of the pain points that we had last year. We had folks working out there, but it was not easy to identify who they were. So if you're...
You ain't kidding.
Yeah, it was difficult. So that's one of the things that we're trying to clean up this year, to be able to identify them. We're not sure how we're going to do that, if we're going to make them wear certain things, but that's probably one of the pieces that we're trying to fix this year.
Okay, then were they working for you or community development, or who were they working for?
Through the chair to the council member, they are working for Public Works, but what we did find out, and one of the lessons learned, is that we need to put somebody over just the vacant, the pilot program participants. So we are bringing on a person that is going to be handling just the pilot program for that portion, because that was an unwieldy thing to handle.
Yeah. So, Mr. Chairman, my honorable colleagues, at some point, are you going to tell us who you're going to award the contracts to? How many did you award last year?
Through the chair to the council, it was about 8 8 contractors that we use.
And these were Cleveland-based contractors that go out and cut grass and clean up the property?
Through the chair to the council, that is correct.
Okay, so at some point, you're going to be able to tell us who they are?
Yep, through the chair to the council, yes.
So then, on abandoned home or building, who do we going to turn that complaint into?
So through the chair to the council person, it's still, that remains the same. When you give it to us, we just assign them to the correct bodies that are in your ward.
Okay. And I'm going to direct that to the chair as well, that we can make sure we get that.
Sure.
Yeah, that's no problem.
Because that's a big issue with the edge neighborhoods, these abandoned homes and property. So I want to make sure that we get that information, so it gets through the chair and through the
Mr.
staff.
Tyson, do you have that request?
Okay.
We got it.
And then on the, Mr. Chairman, and then on the breakdown, the 4.9, that's including the block grant funds, correct?
Through the chair to the councilman, that is correct.
Okay. So if you go look at your summary, the summary, you've got the community development block grant funds allocated 1.2 million. You list the wards. Then you go down in the next paragraph, and the words are different.
Okay.
I'm sorry, what's the question?
Could we read?
On the summary, go to your summary page. You've got community development block grant funds, 1.2 million, list the wards.
Different, that's what I'm saying.
Then you go down to the next paragraph, and the words are different.
Yeah, through the chair to the councilman, that is a typo. So what you see here listed up top, that is correct. So this is not correct at the bottom.
Not correct at the bottom. Okay, so you're asking, Mr. Chairman, to the chair, to the director, the assistant, you're asking once again for council members to contribute block grant funds for additional vacant lot cleanup. Is that correct? Or is this for the vacant houses too? Or is this, tell me what it's
So
for.
through the chair to the councilman, this is for those council people that want to fund the crew. So we just kind of listed the folks in the past who've done it.
Okay.
And those crews would get directed to either a structure or they'll get directed to a vacant lot, depending on the need.
Okay, so when are you going to ask, Mr. Chairman, to the council members who wants to fund the crew or who doesn't? When are you going to do that?
So through the chair to the councilman, typically we ask that in the first or second week of March, send out a letter.
So you're going to send that out, we should all get that shortly.
Through the council, through the chair to the councilman, yes.
Okay, and then what are you going to ask each of us to contribute?
Through the chair to the councilman, we typically say that this will be the cost for a 2-person crew or a 3-person crew. And up to the council, it's up to the council person to fund it for 2 or 3. Sometimes they ask for no, I'd rather have a less amount, but it's up to the council person.
So for $57,000, what do you get?
That will be through the chair to the council person, that's 3 people, and that will be for about 21 weeks.
Okay, so for 39, what do you get?
Through the chair to the council, you probably get 2 and probably a little less weeks.
And 19?
So through the chair to the councilman, depending on the price, whatever cost we have, the dollar amount that we get back for the contract, for 19,000, you probably get less weeks.
I'm sorry, through the chair to the
19,000,
council.
you get your grandmother to cut lots, right? What do you get? Yeah, okay, that's what I want to know. For 19 grand, what do you get? That's what I want to know.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So through the chair to the,
Okay.
through the chair to the, if you're following this, the 19, that was 2 council people split.
Okay.
So it was, they split it in half, so it was 19 for one and 19 for the other.
Okay. So, Mr. Chairman, first of all, I don't believe councilmen should have to contribute. That's my thing. But if we're going to, what guarantees are you going to give us that we're going to get the 3 people assigned to go out there and do it? You have the equipment to do it. You have the trucks. You have the grass, the lawnmowers, the weed eaters. You tell me, I got to hear some assurances here.
Sure.
Because $57,000 on top of what we're funding already to cut grass in each of our wards, you got to give us guarantees. It's called guarantee.
Yep.
So I don't have to pay the neighbor's grandmother next door to go cut grass.
So through the chair to the councilman, in the past, I do want to apologize for whatever has happened in the past. This year, we made pivots. One of the things that we found out was the equipment was one of our issues.
Yes.
So we began to do things like rent trucks. That is something that we did last year because we weren't able to get trucks. We just couldn't move the crews around. So this year, we actually made a substantial investment to be able to do that, to be able to get our trucks.
So you're going to guarantee, Mr. Chairman, I want to get this straight. You're going to be able to guarantee those council members who go above and beyond the duty and allocate $57,000 for grass cutting in their ward, you're going to guarantee us 3 people with the equipment and things that we need to stay on top of the high grass.
Through the chair to the council person, what I can guarantee is that we will do a better job on the accounting side and also making sure that the work is actually done in the ward that's prescribed. One of the things that we did find out, the consistency from the Snyder Blake or from
Yes.
the temp agencies, it fluctuates, and so we did make sure that you're not charged for when you're not, when they, for example, if you have a 3-person crew and only 2 people show up, you're not charged for 3. And one of the things we're also doing is incorporating more into our City Works work order management system to be able to extrapolate that information and watch it a little more closely for trending.
Okay. So you're being very diplomatic when you say fluctuates, okay? Because, boy, it did.
No, just honest.
Yeah, it did fluctuate substantially, okay, as it pertains to getting grass cut. So, Mr. Chairman, you know, the number of lots aren't diminishing. Every time we tear a structure down, we got another lot. Everybody knows in our neighborhoods, the grass grows in Cleveland. I know I was supposedly talking to community development or whoever about planting different types of grass seed and things, et cetera, so we don't get the elephant grass growing.
Cloverleaf, yes.
All I'm saying, again, Mr. Chairman, this is something that has always annoyed me, that the council members have to kick in additional funds to get the grass cut. But if I'm going to kick it in, I better get it.
That's fair.
I got to get it, because I'm going to use my late friend Fannie Lewis's best line. This year, I'm going to be on you guys like white on rice if I don't get that grass cut. Okay? Capiche? Okay?
Got it.
Okay?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Santana.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will be brief through the chair to director. First of all, I want to thank you guys for your quick response from our office. I really appreciate that. Through the chair to the director, I remember vaguely last year we approved a program like a green landscaping program that we were partnering with local landscapers to cut vacant lots. Where are we at with that?
So through the chair to the councilwoman, that's what we were talking about with
that's
the
the whole-
councilwoman. So we are in progress of doing that again. We are actually putting together all the specifications to go out to solicit people to be able to do this.
So through the chair to the director, let's just say we have residents in our neighborhood that own their own landscaping business. Is it too late to connect them to the city and for our specific funding to go to those landscapers in our area? Because they live in the neighborhood, they kind of know the landscape in our area. Or is that something that Public Works will assign?
Through the chair to the council person, if I'm not mistaken, the way we put that out was that the local contractors could pick the locations that they wanted, because they, again, like you mentioned, they may know the terrain or may have the equipment for that particular area, so they actually bid on the area that they would like or they feel like they could most perform the work on. So we don't necessarily push them to an area. We may recommend an area, but we let them pick the area that they want to bid on.
Got it.
So they would be more than welcome. Like we wouldn't go through and assign everybody a specific ward that way. We would let them pick, so they could definitely pick
Got
your.
it. So through the chair director, it's not too late to refer landscapers?
Through the chair to the council member, no, it's not too late.
And then my last question, my issue is alleys, right? We have a lot of vacant homes. I have 52 alleys that residents or the renters are not taking care of. Could this crew handle that type of work, or is it specifically vacant lots?
Through the chair to the council member, what I've done over the last several months, noticing this issue, especially with the alley work for snow and ice control, for the bus networks that do use some of the alleys for pickups and also waste collection. So what I've done is made a crew for Parks and Recreation to go through and open up those alleys, mainly using urban forestry because a lot of that stuff is pretty heavy to move. So what we've been doing is when urban forestry is not on other locations working or waiting on contractors for locations, that we have them in the alleys. So you should see some relief, especially in your area. We've been working in your area pretty extensively because you have a lot of those alleys on the west side. So you should be able to see that. One of the things I'm trying to focus this pilot on is the actual cutting of the vacant lots and the cleanup portion, and also areas where on the sidewalks where the overgrowth has grown over so much where you got to walk in the street or you got to duck down. I'm trying to get those areas with those privates. Especially with insurance things, putting the contractors in the alleys and things like that, trying to keep up with them. It's a lot easier to keep up with our own crews in the alleys because of our GPS and things like that versus trying to chase local contractors around in behind alleys and stuff like that. So I pretty much reserve our full-time staff for that work.
Got it. Okay, and I do have one more question. So we just passed Residents First, right? Are we going to start citing? I'm not sure how Public Works is going to work with building and housing to start citing all these property owners that are not cutting their overgrowth in their alley. Are we? I mean, because I know historically we haven't done that, but.
Yeah, I do. Oh, I'm sorry. Through the chair to the council member, I apologize. That's one of the things, since we're at the infancy stage of this, I do plan to meet with Chair Bishop to kind of see what the temperature is on this and how we want to move forward, because as you mentioned, we hadn't been enforcing in the past, and of course when you start enforcing, it's going to cause a lot of calls to you all. So we want to make sure that we're lockstep and in sync with what the messaging would be. I do believe that there needs to be a robust educational process before we engage in something like that. So I think, again, we're in the infancy stage of that, but I would like to see us to get on par with many of the other municipalities that are trying to come back. There's enforcement that has to come with it to really revitalize like we're trying to do.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Councilman Conwell.
That you have 52 alleys, and I just want to make a remark on that. You ever thought about some of the ARPA money or the money with the arts? You make some of the alleys a gathering place where there are murals back there and people can meet there, and am I on point with it? Yes.
We got a couple of them that we did that too, but don't worry, the proposals are coming.
Oh, okay. I'm reading people's minds today. Good. So I'm there. I'll yield.
Thank you. Seeing no other questions, ordinance number 1384-2023 stands approved. Please sign on. All right. Next up is ordinance number 1385-2023 by council members Bishop and Griffin by departmental request. An emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Works to employ one or more professional consultants to assess, recommend, and procure property insurance for the City of Cleveland-owned stadium at 100 Alfred Lerner Way and other related services for a period of up to 2 years. Director and Assistant Director.
Thank you. To the chair, passage of this legislation is necessary for the property insurance covering the stadium, also known as Cleveland Browns Stadium, where the Cleveland Browns play football. This is a contract term up to 2 years. We have, over the last couple of years, as you recall, when we came and we talked extensively about the changes in price that made it go up with the terrorism riders and the other riders on the valuation of the actual property. So this is where we've landed, and we're definitely much more comfortable now making sure that we have the correct items in our insurance and looking for your support.
Thank you, Councilman Bishop.
Mr. President, we vetted this morning, and we fully support it for passage.
Thank you. Are there any questions regarding 1385-2023? Councilman Palencia.
Chairman, the
excuse me. I'm looking at the wrong piece. I got the viaduct here. I'm trying to find 1385. Okay, right here. Okay. We're going to pay $641,000, correct?
Through the chair.
Or 642,000, yeah. Is that correct?
Through the chair to the councilman, that is correct.
And this is is this a one-year deal?
Through the chair to the councilman, we're asking for legislation to go up to 2 years.
Okay.
But in the past, it's been 1 year.
And did we indicate who this is with at all? I see Alliant Insurance Incorporated. Is that they're going to bid again? They have an opportunity to bid?
Through the chair to the councilman, yes, that company will have an opportunity to bid again.
Okay. Now, I'm just trying to educate me. Is this covers the total replacement cost? What was specifically does this cover?
Through the chair to the councilman, yes, this is a replacement cost for all the types of coverage for flood, for terrorism, for those kind of things, but it is a replacement cost.
Total replacement cost of everything so if a big tsunami comes in from Lake Erie and makes the Bye-Bye Stadium, this would cover the cost of replacement.
Through the chair to the councilman, we have flooding covered as well.
Okay. So the insurance coverage, because I can remember when we were paying about $200,000, I think I then went about $250, and now it's up to $641. But we don't know for sure if it's going to be that amount, do we? Because you're going to go out for bid.
Through the chair to the councilman, that is correct. We will go out for it. The last couple of years has come back at about 500,000, 600,000, that neighborhood.
Okay, so you're estimating a possible increase.
To the chair to the councilman, that's correct.
For the 642. Okay. We got to insure it, Mr. Chairman, whether we like it or not. We have to insure it, and it's amazing. We pay the insurance, we pay the property taxes, we pay. So every time I look at what I think of that Burger King commercial, cha-ching, when I think of the Lakefront Stadium. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions regarding ordinance number 1385-2023? Councilman Casey.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, to the director, it's insured for replacement cost. What is that replacement cost?
Through the chair to the councilman, we have about $800 million will be the total cost that we have for coverage.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other questions regarding ordinance number 1385-2023? Stands approved. Thank you. Please sign on. Okay. All right. Next up is ordinance number 30-2024 by council members Spencer, Bishop, and Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance to change the name Lake Park to Lake Pool Park. And Councilman Bishop, or Director, did you have anything?
Yes.
Councilman Bishop.
Yes, Chair, Mr. Chairman, we fully vetted this morning. We recommend it for passage.
Thank you. And the councilwoman on record, Councilwoman Spencer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is the one outdoor pool location in all of Ward 15, and after consultation with residents, really wanting with the park renovation, that will be about a $650,000 improvement to this park. Wanted to really highlight that unique feature for our community. It's kind of a hidden gem at this point, so we're hoping that by really highlighting this special amenity, it'll really become a bigger point of pride for the community. So thank you.
Thank you. And is there any other questions regarding ordinance number 74-2024? If not, no, I'm sorry, 1385-2023 stands approved. Thank you. Ordinance number 74-2024 as amended by council members Bishop and Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Works to enter into a license agreement with Key Bank National Association to use and occupy city-owned property located within Cleveland City Hall for the installation and maintenance of a Key Bank automatic teller machine terminal located in Room 122, Vital Statistics, for the use and convenience of the general public for a period of 2 years with one additional year option to renew, exercisable by the Director of Public Works. And I'll read the amendment. There is no legal objection to this legislation if amended as follows. 1, in the title, strike lines 9, 10, and 11 in their entirety and insert public for a period of 1 year. And number 2, strike Section 2 in its entirety and insert Section 2 that the term of the license agreement shall be for 1 year. Director?
Through the chair what we did is we are going to take a look at this whole idea. From what I understand, I inherited a situation that started in 2005 with Key Bank. So we're going to take a look at engaging our credit union, also engaging getting other banks to be able to participate. But just due to time and the convenience, we want to go ahead and go forward with this year to give us time to do that legwork for going forward and seeing what we should do after that. But we do need to keep a functioning ATM for the convenience for the residents and those customers that do come in.
So let me make sure that I understand this. Ever since I can remember, that has always been a Key Bank kiosk. But what you're saying is you want to be able to bid it out to give other people an opportunity to potentially get the contract. But right now, what you're asking us to do is approve one for at least 1 year with an option a second year.
No, well, we actually amended it so that we just do the 1 year. So that just gives us the year to get our
So
ducks
a
in a
year
row.
to be able to put your ducks in a row to be able to
Vet
figure out
other options.
All right, thank you. Councilman Michael Polensky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, my honorable colleagues, to the director. I'm glad to hear that. Because I think, and the other thing I would ask you to do, that anybody that bids on this or that we seek bids from, we want to know if they're in compliance with the Community Reinvestment Act.
Okay.
I think that's critical. We should not be rewarding people who do not make loans or invest in our neighborhoods. So I would hope, I agree with you, we got to open the process up to other institutions, the Civil Service Credit Union, I'm glad to hear that. But again, I want to make sure everybody's in compliance, especially the banks, with the Community Reinvestment Act. Thank you.
Thank you. And just, Councilman, I got some eye-opening information for you that I'm not even going to try to divulge at the table, but you'll be surprised where our CRA agreements lay right now. And we'll have that conversation. A lot of things I learned going through this bank closure on, or this temporary bank closure on Buckeye, that I learned some things that I'll share with you, okay?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. Seeing no other questions, ordinance number 74-20. Oh, Councilman Bishop, did you want to add anything to this?
No, Mr. President, we fully vetted this. We amended it to kind of reflect the just the overall participation of our financial institutions in our city. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Seeing no other questions, ordinance number 74-2024 stands approved. Thank you. Last one for municipal services is ordinance number 103-2024. And this is by council members Bishop and Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance authorizing directors of public works and finance to enter into one or more concession agreements for the operation of soft drink, candy, snack, and other vending machines throughout various parks and various city-owned and city-leased buildings for a period not to exceed 2 years for a 1-year option to renew, exercisable by the directors, and to extend the existing concession agreements for a period up to 6 months or until such earlier time as new concession agreements are entered into under this ordinance. Director.
Thank you, Chair. This vendor will supply vending products throughout the various city staff buildings. This is a carryover program that is supported by our health department that makes the vendor is required to stock the vending machines with 100% healthy products. And there's a litany of different requirements, but one of the biggest ones is the 220 or less calories per serving for all items. We did discuss today the looking at making sure that we are being open to everyone and everyone's types of vending things and that they may have to vet. But at this point, we are looking to go out for this one and continue this program until we find something that might be of better use to the city.
Thank you. Councilman Bishop.
Yes, Mr. President, we vetted this morning, and it's in human municipal services, and we fully recommend it for pass.
Thank you. Councilwoman Santana.
Oh, no, I just said I love that. If you could have some hummus in there, I would appreciate it. No.
Thank you. Seeing no other questions, ordinance number 103-2024 stands approved. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, appreciate you, Director.
Appreciate you, sir. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you guys. Thank you. All right, Mr. Cole, you got the anchor leg.
That's right.
Ordinance number 193-2024 by Councilmember Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance to amend Section 8 of Ordinance 194-2021 passed March 29, 2021 as amended relating to salaries for various classifications. Director Cole. And this will be for passage under suspension tonight, so this will be considered by the entire body on the floor of council tonight. Councilman, yes. 193.
Correct. Right.
It's a walk-on? Okay, thank you. Please proceed.
Thank you, Chairman and Council. This should be pretty easy compared to what else you've tackled today. I know. Yeah, good point. This is basically amending or adding to the pay band legislation I brought forth on the 4th of December related to the Local 100 rates of pay. During the implementation, we discovered that the data control clerk classification, which is line number 58, we had originally increased the maximum to 2101, but it should actually be 2145, which will incorporate the top end of that particular position pursuant to the Local 100 contract. So this is just to amend the top of the pay band for that particular classification.
Thank you. All right. Are there any questions for Director Cole? Any questions? Did anybody have any questions regarding 193? All right. Okay. Seeing no questions, ordinance number 193-2024 stands approved. Please sign on. And it will be once again heard by the entire body tonight for passage, okay?
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Where are we with the bargaining units? How many do we need to get closed up?
Through the chair to Councilman Polensek, we have, I believe, a total of 11 that include, that are at various stages, mostly completed, but still completely outstanding, correct.
And just as a follow-up, if I get one more city employee that's going to ask me about retro, do we know when the city employees are going to get retro?
To the chairman, we do not have a specific date. I assume you're talking about for Local 100. We
Local
have
100
inquired,
is ready and asking on a regular basis.
I have looked into it, but there is not a specific date I can provide at this time.
Okay, is there any reason why, or do we know, is it just because calculating the numbers or anything, or what?
To the chairman, yes, primarily it's just related to what they have to do to actually calculate the retroactivity based on the many number of changes made in the Local 100 contract.
Can you please let us know, because we get those calls and many of these workers reach out to us on a regular basis, and I just want to make sure that they're made whole as soon as possible, okay?
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Seeing no other questions or no other legislation, this Committee of Finance, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion is adjourned until February the 26th. Thank you.